Hello, everyone. Michael Jordan fans are the best. And today we're going to be discussing who's better at basketball, Kobe Bryant or Tim Duncan. It's not even close to me, but that's besides the point. Anyway, let's welcome the panel real fast. We got Hoop God up here. How are you today, sir?
Ah, man, it's great, man. Another day to talk basketball. And y'all know my motto, it's imperative that we destroy these narratives.
We got Johnny Arnett. Welcome back. How are you today, sir?
I'm good, man. Thanks for having me back. And I will try to be as objective as possible. But as you can tell, there's Lakers merch around my bedroom, and I have a Kobe canvas over there. So I'm just laying it out there. I recognize there's some subconscious bias. I do appreciate Duncan, but I know where I'm going today.
Welcome, Robin, Sports and Fitness Rants. How are you today?
Oh, I'm doing great. Shout out to everybody in the chat, man. Shout out to everybody on the panel, man. Once again, guys, we back for the Sunday live stream, man. Once again, we're going to talk about Kobe Bryant versus my man Tim Duncan. And for me, it's a conversation, man. And I think we should have a good debate today, man. A good talk about these two players, man. Shout out to all you guys out there.
We got Jay Scap Attack back. How are you today, sir?
I'm doing well. I'm looking forward to I'm going to say the discussion or the conversation. I don't think there's going to be much of a debate. I don't know how anybody could go the other way, but we'll see. We'll see what it turns into.
Well, you got a surprise in store for you. No. Anyway, and then we got Spe Engine. How are you today, sir?
Hey, afternoon, gentlemen. Afternoon. Happy to be here. Took notes, did research this time. Everyone go see Deadpool and Wolverine.
Nice.
I guess you work for them. No, anyway.
No, but if they're hiring, I will.
All right. Well, Hoop God, who is a better basketball player and why between Kobe Bryant and Tim Duncan?
Ah, man. So now it's like I'm having to decipher between two of the guys I got in my top five. So let's just get into it now. From the jump, Tim Duncan came in more polished, more well-rounded. Of course, we know the story with Tim Duncan. Phenomenal, first 2-3 years of his career. Kobe, it was diametrically opposite. He had Nick Van Exel and Eddie Jones, who he had to systematically outwork before he ultimately moved up and took over in that position. But if just to sum it up in totality, I'm looking at them. There are playoff instances where Tim Duncan outplayed Kobe and Shaquille O'Neal, but then there's also playoffs where Kobe Bryant outplayed Tim Duncan and David Robinson. Ultimately, though, when I say the greater of the two from what I've seen, I have to go with Kobe Bryant simply because when they played them in the 2008 Western Conference Finals, remember the Spurs were the defending champions. What was the whole rumor out there? Oh, Kobe can't do it without Shaq. He can't do blah, 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 blah. Not only did he not get it done without Shaq, but he was surgical in that series. They destroyed him in 5 games with Bruce Bowen being his primary defender and Greg Popovich strategically trying to funnel Kobe into Tim Duncan. But it's Kobe Bryant's his ability to be able to navigate and still get his shot. I mean, it's unbelievable. So I go back and watch this series now because I'm just in awe. I mean, it's just like for him to defeat them without Shaquille O'Neal, winning that 5th chip in the 2010s, that put Kobe over Tim Duncan. Just for me. Now, other people may disagree, but I don't want to take too much time on it. But yes, I have Kobe over Duncan as a better player and a greater player, simply off of that 2008-2010 performance.
All right, Johnny, what's your take on this?
Both are great. I was talking when we were backstage about how I think you got to make a bit of a differentiation between, looking at the complete body of work and who was better when they were at their best. If you're looking at the complete body of work, like they said, Tim Duncan came out hot. Like he was one of the best players in the league in his first couple of years in the league. Now he didn't come, straight out of high school like Kobe did. But he came into the league and he was immediately a problem. And then he was really effective, at the very final few years of his career too, where Kobe was really dealing with injuries and struggling to make the playoffs. But as far as peak, like I'm a Kobe guy. I think you got to go with Kobe because defensively, I think most people are probably going to give the edge to Duncan, although their responsibilities are completely different. Duncan had 15 all-defense teams. Kobe had 12. But offensively, like Duncan was never the scoring problem that Kobe was. You know, he was never a guy. I mean, at his peak, he had like a season or two where he gets up to like 25 a game. Kobe's 35 at his peak, usually hovering around 27 to 30 points per game. And so I think offensively is where Kobe makes that greater edge. And that's personally why I have to go with them. There's a lot to it. I also think it was Kobe's era. If you're looking at the 2000s, because the Lakers beat the Spurs more times, they made it to the finals more times. But Duncan's got that consistency, man. So I'm not going to hate on anybody who disagrees with it. But I think when you look at how they did going head to head, because people like to say, oh, well, he had Shaq. I get he had Shaq, but Duncan had quite the consistent supporting cast throughout the entirety of his career, and he had Greg Popovich the entire time. I think Kobe might have liked to have that stability too. I'm not sure if he ends up with less rings if you switch places. So that's just some of my thoughts, but I think I got to give the slight edge to Kobe.
All right, Robin, what do you got to say?
Well, you know, listen to my man Johnny articulate his point. I heard the word consistency mentioned a lot when he was talking about Tim Duncan and his career. I think we have to talk about that word consistency and how much that means to Tim Duncan in this kind of comparison if we're talking about Kobe Bryant. Because once again, when we talk about longevity and we talk about consistency, this is the argument you would make for someone like a Tim Duncan over a Kobe Bryant when we have this debate. Now, for me, I would pick Kobe Bryant over Tim Duncan if I had to rank them. I do have them ranked. But that would be it for Tim Duncan, because when you talk about his defensive abilities and you talked about him on the offensive end and you talked about his success from the minute he came into the league, if we think about these things, man, this goes to Tim Duncan's greatness, man. Once again, being able to have those guys fit around him, once again, being the anchor for the San Antonio Spurs all those years so they could bring in these pieces. Not a lot of people knew about guys like Tony Parker and Manu Ginobili before they played with Tim Duncan and stuff like that. So when we talk about Tim Duncan and his overall steadiness, his leadership, when we talk about these things, you can argue he was a greater leader than Kobe Bryant. Kobe Bryant has to take some heat for the relationship or lack of for Shaquille O'Neal and things of that nature, the way it soured. Yeah, Shaquille O'Neal has to take a lot of ownership on that, but also with Kobe Bryant, man, we could talk about Tim Duncan, and once again, you could bring multiple pieces around him. We talk about the Robert Ory's, the Matt Bonners, the Steven Jacksons, you know, some of the other players they brought around Tim Duncan over the years, man, that helped those San Antonio Spurs be successful. But the San Antonio Spurs, to me, they never won back-to-back titles with Tim Duncan there. To me, I always wondered, like, how that never happened. That is something that you could talk about Tim Duncan. We talk about the Olympics in 2004. We could talk about Tim Duncan and some of the responsibility or some of the blame that he should take maybe for that team. So these are the kinds of things we could talk about overall with Tim Duncan versus Kobe Bryant. But for me, I think it's a conversation. I think it's a debate that you can have because, once again, Tim Duncan had that steadiness, that aura, that quiet demeanor, that really led the whole organization. When you talk about someone like a Greg Popovich, he can lean on someone like Tim Duncan, some of these other players, man. So that goes to Tim Duncan's greatness, man.
All right, Jay, what do you got to say?
Yeah, first of all, I want to say that this conversation is nowhere near as contentious to me as, say, like a LeBron James versus Kobe Bryant. I have the utmost respect for both of these players. I have both of them ranked very highly all time on my overall top 10 ranking. And I think I just want to echo and expand upon some of Johnny's points. I'd say Duncan is one of the best defensive players of all time. He's generally regarded as such. He has 15 All-NBA defensive teams total, which is the most in NBA history. So I think I would give, and just talking about the impact and influence of a big defender versus a perimeter defender, I think big defenders can have more of an impact on the overall game and on the overall court than a perimeter or a guard-based defender. So just in general, overall, I give Tim Duncan the check mark on defense over Kobe Bryant. But let's not pretend like Kobe Bryant was a slouch on defense. He has 12 All-NBA defensive team selections, which is tied for second most behind only Tim Duncan. He has 9 first-team selections, which is actually one more than Tim Duncan, who only had 8. And then I believe Kobe had 9 top 12 defensive player of the year finishes throughout his career in the year-end DPOY voting. So it's not like there's a huge, like, cavernous gap between Duncan's defense and Kobe's defense like there is between them on the offensive end. Kobe Bryant is arguably, to me, the greatest offensive player of all time. He is, at the very least, in my opinion, top 3 along with Will Chamberlain and Michael Jordan. And when you just compare the offensive abilities of the two of them, Kobe Bryant has 8 2,000-plus point seasons in his NBA career. Duncan has 1. Duncan averaged 25 points or more one time in his career. Kobe did it 12 times. Like, Kobe Bryant was undeniably the greatest offensive force in his era, in his time, which was the slowest paced, lowest scoring time in NBA history, a time which was in like the mid 90s, like 96, 97 point per game average for about a 13-year span, where Kobe was running around playing at that time. He's still top 3 all time in most 60, 50, and 40-point games. Kobe Bryant has more 50-point games than LeBron James and Kevin Durant combined. This guy was an absolute force on offense. He significantly distances himself over Duncan in that regard. So therefore, the tiebreaker to me, if you want to say we need a tiebreaker, team success. Look, Duncan was better in the regular season, 14 50-plus win campaigns, second most in NBA history. Kobe, I believe, only had 7. But what did all of that regular season success mean ultimately? They both won 5 championships, and Kobe got to one more finals appearance than Tim Duncan with, and we can get into this later on. I'm going to cede my time here. In my estimation, Duncan had better teams and more stable environment with his organization than Kobe by and large, and it wasn't close. So in my opinion, while I respect Duncan, it's Kobe all day, baby.
Spe Engine, what do you got to say?
So I did try to build a case for Timmy Duncan, but then I recognized the space that I was in. So I'm gonna say Kobe from the gate. But from
Don't
98,
be afraid.
No. Well, I've got an argument for Duncan here a little bit too. From
I need a friend here.
Okay, no, I got you. From 1998 to 2007, Tim Duncan actually outplaced Kobe Bryant in MVP voting, with the exception of I wrote it down, 2007. So over that period of time, the league felt that Tim Duncan was the more valuable player. Then you factor in Tim Duncan, when going head to head against the Lakers, was banging bodies with Shaq like every possession. So we're talking, and this is back when guys played most of the game. So he was taking a beating, while Kobe, great on defense, not taking as much of a physical pounding. But even with that all being said, Tim Duncan is an incredibly consistent player. But Kobe was just like the only thing. It's when you look at impact, 5 rings, right? And you can argue that Shaq was the focal point, but you can also argue that Kobe was the focal point. In terms of dynasties, Laker dynasty versus the Spurs, someone correct me. I think they won they won 5 under Duncan. When's the last time they won before that? I can't even remember. Head to head, you have to kind of go with Kobe. I want to fight for Duncan. I really do, just based on consistency. But I got to go Kobe. Got to. I've been beaten into. I got to have my mind changed.
All right. Well, I'm gonna spew some stuff that probably won't change your mind, but I think there's some good points. All right. So Tim Duncan, some of these points were already made before, but won 50 games, at least 50 games for his entire career outside of the lockout season, where he ended up winning a championship, where he still, I believe, won 38 in a 50-some win season. People talk about Greg Popovich as if he was a storied coach before coming with Tim Duncan. He wasn't. I think he was a rookie coach or maybe second-year coach coming into it, while Kobe Bryant had Phil Jackson, who had the experience of winning 6 NBA championships with Michael Jordan. I think that's a moot point to say that Greg Popovich, I think he's a great coach, don't get me wrong, but to say that Kobe Bryant didn't have a better coach or equal coach, I think is nonsense. I think that Phil Jackson is arguably a way better coach. And I think that's shown through the multiple different types of teams that he had with the Michael Jordan teams, having them wildly change, and then also the Kobe Shaq teams, and then eventually the Kobe Gasol teams. With that said, I'm not a big advanced analytics guys, but advanced analytics lean toward Tim Duncan as well, with the efficiency ratings, defensive rating. They have the same offensive rating, the value over replacement player, the block box plus minus. All of that favors Duncan. I think that in respect to the impact and influence. I think just in general, and I think this is the case for this, is that a big man is always going to be more important than a little man 99% of the time. And Tim Duncan was able to go and have mass effect over the entire league. He won more MVPs. He won more finals MVPs. As said before, he had all of these he had more defensive teams. Many people argue that he was robbed of at least one defensive player of the year. And I think that he was able to do more. And talking about supporting cast, so David Robinson, in the beginning of his career, I think up to the 2003 season, I think he might have been third team All-NBA that time. But past that, Manu Ginobili and Tony Parker, great players, don't get me wrong. But to say that they were elite players is not true. They're in the same realm of, you could say that they're like Pau Gasol or some other people that were on the Lakers team during that time in the late 2000s. I just think that in respect to Tim Duncan was clearly the guy on those teams. Kobe had Shaq in the beginning of the first three championships that he had, that you could argue Shaq was the guy. Nobody argued David Robinson was the guy. It was Tim Duncan all the way, baby. Tim Duncan over Kobe Bryant. It's not even close. I'm just kidding.
Tim Duncan was the guy because you didn't have Shaq.
So I just want to clarify the one thing on David Robinson. In Tim Duncan's rookie season, which Tim Duncan entered the NBA and he was already viably NBA ready. He was like 22 years old. I believe he graduated from Wake Forest, so he played a full 4 seasons there. He came in like NBA ready, and he was probably a top 10 player, but definitely by his second year. But he was already an elite player even in his rookie season. But that year, so when Tim Duncan entered, David Robinson was second team All-NBA, second team All-NBA defense, third in defensive player of the year voting, and seventh in league MVP voting. So like David Robinson, and he was 32 years old, by the way. Like, people talk about David Robinson like he was completely washed up when Tim Duncan came in. Like, David Robinson is a top 20 all-time NBA player, and he was still an elite player at the time Tim Duncan came in. And then Tony Parker, Manu Ginobili won 4 of the 5 rings with Tim Duncan. So Duncan won the 1 ring with David Robinson, and then he had David Robinson, I believe, for 1 more, which of course David Robinson was on his way out for the second ring. But at that point, Manu Ginobili, who was like 25 when he entered the NBA, and Tony Parker were already integrated into the system. And I just want to make one final point on, I will concede maybe like Pau Gasol is like an equivalent player maybe to like a Tony Parker or Manu Ginobili. But okay, Kobe had Pau Gasol, like one guy in Pau Gasol for, like a little respite period of his career. Like, he didn't have anything for the 3 years, 2.5, 3 years after Shaq left. Like, Gasol was dwindling afterwards. What if we gave Kobe the equivalent of, Tony Parker and Manu Ginobili for 15 years at the big level? Because look, Tim Duncan is a big, so he had 2 guards that were perennial all-stars and Hall of Famers for like 15 years. Kobe is the guard. Give him take Shaq off of him. Give him the equivalent, a perennial all-star caliber 4 and 5 for 15 years. How many rings does Kobe have at that point? More than I think than 5, more than either of them ultimately ended up with.
Yeah, wait, hold on. That goes to Tim Duncan's greatness, though. Everything you're talking about, Scap, that goes to Tim Duncan. That's, once again, that's the impact that he has on the defensive end. He allows guys like Tony Parker, Manu Ginobili to do what they do offensively and have that kind of freedom with their games because they know that Tim Duncan's standing behind them. One thing, though, we must keep in mind, though, when you say that Kobe Bryant's the greatest scorer of all time, hold on, Scap. Let's be honest here, man. That's Michael Jordan, man. Kobe Bryant's not that dude, man. When you talk about the era he played and things of that
I didn't
nature,
say he was better.
fine.
I never said Kobe was better than Michael Jordan.
Yeah, you did, man. You came out here and said he's the greatest scorer of all time, man. So don't say that.
Oh, scorer. Yeah, he's arguably the greatest scorer of all time. Arguably, he is.
No, there's no argument, Scap. There's no argument. When you talk about moving without the basketball, Michael Jordan in the post game, all these kinds of things, he's not close to Michael Jordan. When you talk about Michael Jordan's precision, Michael Jordan's 1-2 dribbles to the basket, 1 dribble to the shot, 2 dribbles to the rim. Michael Jordan was way more precise than Kobe Bryant. That's why Kobe Bryant would over dribble sometimes. Let's be honest here. Kobe Bryant was more of a bad shot taker than Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan took much better shots. He was a greater shot selector than Kobe Bryant. So when we talk about the scoring aspect, there's no argument for Kobe Bryant over Michael Jordan. But when we talk talk about the defensive end, Kobe Bryant versus Tim Duncan, his impact on the defensive end will be greater because he can impact the other players at a much greater degree when he's behind these guys protecting that rim. That allows these guys to play a lot differently. Kobe Bryant's an all-time great defensive player on the perimeter, but he doesn't have the overall impact team-wise defensively as a Tim Duncan would.
Adjusting Kobe Bryant's pace in 2005, 2006.
Nah, Scap, don't tell me
If
about
you
the
adjust,
numbers, Scap.
if
No
you
doubt.
adjust,
We know the numbers, Scap.
if
but
you
can't
adjust the
debate that with
pace
Michael
for
Jordan, a better
100
all-star
possessions, Kobe Bryant had a better scoring
Scap.
season in 05-06 than Michael Jordan ever did.
Nah, Scap, that's the numbers.
He
No
did.
doubt. That's great,
He
Scap.
did.
Scap, who
Yeah,
has
the
more
pace-
50, 60-point games? You just
No,
said
the
that before.
pace
Who has
the
more
pace
50,
was
60-point games?
97 back then in 05.
I
Come
want-
on,
It was
Scap.
slow.
We know the numbers, no doubt. He can't touch Michael Jordan's 10 scoring titles. Come on, Scap. Let's be real here, man. We're talking about moving without the basketball. Michael Jordan versus Kobe Bryant. Who you taking?
Kobe was a superior, I
Moving
think,
without
ball
the
handler and
basketball.
jump
Moving
shooter to
without
Michael
the
Jordan.
Basketball. Who you
Let's
taking?
bring
Kobe
it-
Bryant or Michael Jordan?
I got Kobe and
Let's
Duncan
bring it-
thoughts. I got
Dart,
Kobe.
shut this shit down,
Let's
Dart.
bring it back
All
to
right.
We gotta
let's bring
keep
it back
that
to Kobe
real, though,
Duncan.
man.
Kobe and
Shut it
Duncan
down,
thoughts.
Dart.
So first off, I will say the one thing Tim Duncan has that Kobe does not is the 2003 playoff run / NBA Finals. That was just otherworldly. If you want to talk about just peak and you're boiling it down to like a playoff run, it's hard to argue with that. I mean, in the NBA Finals, he was averaging something stupid against New Jersey where he had like 23 points, 17 rebounds. He was putting up like 5 blocks. It was goofy. And then, of course, he had a quadruple-double that was robbed from him in a championship clinching game. Like, that should have been a quadruple-double when you go back and look at the footage the same way we were doing with MJ Steals. So, anyway, but to Scap's point, I was going to bring that up with Kobe. The one thing that really just drives me crazy about this comparison is everybody just brings up, well, Kobe had Shaq. Yes, he had Shaq. He had that great help. But again, Kobe should have been competing during the prime of his career. He should have been. But unlike many other GOAT candidates, he didn't have any help. He's putting up 35 points per game while being first team all defense, outscoring the Dallas Mavericks through 3 quarters, who went on to the NBA Finals that year. And he's got Smush Parker, Luke Walton, Chris Mim, Kwame Brown. Those are guys who are regular starting. Yes, his best help, who regular starters, but his best help was freaking Lamar Odom, who they were trying to turn into a Scottie Pippen. He was a 6th man. He was a great 6th man. But that's how they utilized him when he was actually winning championships. And so when you look at his peak, those several seasons, Kobe should have been in that mix. And then even in Kobe's latter years, where he's got guys like Robert Sacre and Nick Young, Swaggy P, and all that crap, while Tim Duncan had Kawhi Leonard, he had, LaMarcus Aldridge. He still had Ginobili. He still had a lot of those guys. I honestly think if you switch those 2 careers, Kobe's getting at least 5, genuinely, with that consistency. But there were so many years where Kobe just didn't have a chance to compete.
3 words: woulda, coulda, shoulda. What happened?
They still beat Tim Duncan more than Tim Duncan beat Kobe. There is no woulda, coulda, shoulda. You're playing from behind.
Hey, let me say what happened. They both won 5 championships. In the playoffs, Kobe Bryant went and they more or less swept them twice. They swept them once, and then they had a gentleman's sweep. That happened. I'm not saying that, but I'm saying with all the things that you were saying, you're deflecting to some other subject. So all the things that you were saying. Yes, he did have Shaq. Yes, he didn't. The team didn't go and provide the talent around him after Shaq left. They kind of let it fumble, and Phil Jackson wasn't there. The point of it being is that a lot of people go and they look at the Ginobili and Parker. I think they won All-NBA 3 times combined. So they're all-stars because they're on a great team that had consistency. They were popular. They were able to get to the playoffs every year, 50 wins. And they were good players, don't get me wrong, but they were All-NBA 3 times. So the consistency was there with the organization. I think the organization was better at that time, but it was all centered around Tim Duncan. It was centered around Kobe Bryant after Shaq left, and they were unable to get it together for a few years until the championship runs. After that, it all started wimbling apart while Tim Duncan was still on top of the league that entire time. From the day he went in to the day he left, he was on top of the league. In comparison to Kobe Bryant, for the consistency, to me, it matters more. Now I understand what y'all are saying. If if I had wings, I could fly, kind of stuff. But that didn't happen. What happened was Tim Duncan was the model consistency throughout that entire time. If you want to argue Kobe was better and you preferred that, that's fine. But the point of it is that I think those things are more valuable. Tim Duncan has the highest win percentage in the regular season of all time as well. So if I'm going to pick one guy versus the other, just at face value, I'm picking Tim Duncan. To me, it's not.
Well, 10 seconds is all I need a response. I just think you're downplaying the supporting cast a little bit, because yes, he had Ginobili. Yes, he had Tony Parker. He also had, during those prime years where Kobe couldn't compete, he had Bruce Bowen. And like, Bruce Bowen deserves to be brought up when talking about that team. He was arguably the best defensive player on San Antonio several years they played. That's what the voters thought, because he was the runner-up for the defensive player of the year for 3 straight years. And so you got to mention Bruce Bowen too. So that team is a lot deeper than I think you're giving San Antonio credit for.
I never said it wasn't a great team. I just said they aren't as top-heavy. A lot of people like to pretend like Ginobili and Parker and Bowen makes it a top-heavy team. It wasn't. It was Tim Duncan on top by a mile for that team.
No, they were the deeper team. I'm constantly reminded that the Lakers were more top-heavy because Shaq's at the top. I get that. I'm just saying that depth is nice too.
And look, Kobe had Shaq for 8 years. He played 20 years. Kobe, you want to talk about coaching and stability. Kobe Bryant had, yes, Phil Jackson. You mentioned the comparison and the dichotomy between, is it Phil Jackson? Is it Greg Popovich? Which one is superior from like an overall hierarchical standpoint in the all-time coaching pantheon? Look, Greg Popovich was there for all 19 years. Kobe Bryant played for Phil Jackson for 11 seasons. Do you want to know how many coaches Kobe played for outside of those 11 seasons for the remainder of his 9-year career outside of Phil Jackson's tenure? 7 guys. Kobe Bryant played for 7 coaches in 9 years when Phil Jackson wasn't there. Kobe played for 8 years. The Lakers were an unmitigated disaster. The front office was just pathetic and inept, especially in the later years of Kobe Bryant. They dwindled and wasted Kobe Bryant's multiple years of his prime when he was like 26, 27. Then on his way out, the guy, look, he blew his Achilles out because they brought in Mike D'Antoni, who couldn't control him, couldn't harness that roster. And Kobe essentially wasted his career at 34. He blew his Achilles out. He was still one of the 5 best players in the NBA that season. So, I mean, to say that woulda, coulda, shoulda, well, I'm not even saying woulda, coulda, shoulda. I'm saying exactly what happened. They both won 5 championships, and Kobe Bryant had less help by and large when you look at the totality of their careers, and he beat him head-to-head. Kobe Bryant was 4-2 head-to-head against Tim Duncan, and 18-12 overall in 30 playoff appearances. I mean, I just don't know where the argument, the case is coming from, unless we're talking longevity or whatever. But Kobe Bryant, people talk about his peak as like this little finite snapshot. Kobe's peak was like 13, 14 years. That's a pretty big peak.
Whoa. No, I'm just kidding.
Let's let Hoop Gods, we want to talk about the 2003 stuff. So let him talk. I'll bite my tongue.
So real quick, I want to just clear up something now. To give Tim Duncan his appropriate credit. Yes, Bruce Bowen was a great defender, but he was only like top 10 in defensive win shares 1 or 2 times when Tim Duncan led the league, similar to Bill Russell because of his impact. So I will give Duncan the credit there. But I wanted to speak on the 2003 versus 2009. Now, I do believe Tim Duncan's 2003 playoff run is a top 3 performance. I mean, what he was able to do carrying their team past the Phoenix Suns and then, of course, Shaq and Kobe Lakers and then the Dallas Mavericks, even though Dirk got injured, but they were still winning. So I'm not going to say that, hey, just because Dirk got injured, they wouldn't have won. I think that's just blasphemous. But to go up against the New Jersey Nets and to literally shut down Kenyon Martin and to score 24 points per game, if I'm not mistaken, he grabbed 17 rebounds, handed out 5 assists, and still has a record for 5 blocks per game in the series. That's incredible. That's incredible. But I would contrast that to what Kobe did in 2009, simply because they both were a plus 181 playoff plus minus, if you go look it up. And then I started just to do more research. Well, Kobe Bryant at that time only joined Michael Jordan as 2 players to score over 30 points, give you 7 or more assists, and I believe 5 rebounds in a final series. Now, The reason why that stands out to me is because only Nikola Jokic joined them in 2023. So now there's only 3 players who've ever accomplished that feat. So when I'm looking at 03 to 2009, to me, that's where Kobe, in my eyes, peaked as a player. Like the mental game and the physical game, it's like they synced up together. Whereas Duncan put on that performance in 03. Now, I just favor Kobe simply because he had all the rumors surrounding him. Hey, he can't do it without Shaq, or he's dependent on Shaq, blah, 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 blah. Okay, they get Pau Gasol. Now, I know you guys know this, so I'm not speaking to y'all. I'm making a general statement. There was a consensus that Pau was a soft player. He was soft. He couldn't do anything. He didn't like physical play. And not only that, but Pau never won a playoff game, let alone series, before he got to the Lakers. He wasn't even all NBA. So he gets to the Lakers. Him and Kobe, it's almost like it was a perfect marriage, just using a basketball reference. And Powell has his most efficient season with somebody who they customarily say is inefficient. Like I saw this joke in the comments. He never shot 50%. Well, hey, go look in the 2000s. Look up all the high volume scorers. None of them shot 50%
Right.
who played on the perimeter. That's why they call it the dead ball era. Like they just drive me crazy when they talk about this nonsense. But getting back to Powell and Kobe, Powell shot 52% playing for the Lakers. Everywhere else, his percentages went down. Now, if I had to come to a conclusion, well, that's off Kobe Bryant's scoring gravity, right? So when I look at the 2 players, I think they bring different things to the table. And Dart, like you said, Tim Duncan is the model of consistency. I won't argue that. Kobe Bryant is the more spectacular player. But again, where I have to give the edge to Kobe, he did win 5 chips in that decade, where Tim Duncan only had 4. He got his 5th in the 2010s, not the 2000s. And like Johnny Arnett said, he beat him in the playoffs more times than he beat Kobe. So I'm just giving Kobe the edge on that one.
Well, first, Robin or Spe Engine, you want to say something? Because I know me, Johnny, and Scap have been going in circles a couple times. Because I want to say something, but I want to give you, I want you all to have an opportunity to talk too.
I have a quick question. Actually, Dart, I'll ask you this. It's addressing something in the comments. I've seen a couple mentions of we are tearing down Kobe's teammates to prop him up. And I'm assuming the answer is no, but this argument wasn't formed to prop Kobe up further in the GOAT debate, right? I mean, this isn't like another anti, because they say all we do is talk about LeBron. This is by no means to prop him up in standings over LeBron, correct? I didn't think it was.
Well, I mean, tearing Kobe down is, I don't think anyone's tearing Kobe down. I think if anything, both of our sides are saying that his help weren't as good, and that they were the main piece of it. Well, I guess, I'm not denying that Kobe's second team didn't have as much help, but no, people were saying that that I'm hypocritical because I have Duncan over Kobe, which I don't understand how that makes sense, other than they play similarly, Kobe and Jordan. But I'm not doing this as anything. If anything, I'm the bad guy here. So
I didn't think so. I didn't think so. And the other thing I wanted to mention is a lot of the Kobe hate, unfortunately, is outside of the numbers, right? I feel like the NBA went hard to make him look like the villain. You had the whole thing with him and Shaq and his wife. You had the Denver stuff. I mean, it's not like he did a lot of it to himself, but Tim Duncan pretty much had that squeaky clean image I guess the majority of his career. And I think that did factor into, unfortunately, how people viewed one over the other. Kobe yeah. Go ahead, sorry.
I was going to say, I thought his clothing style was edgy. Tim Duncan's.
Tim Duncan dresses like what I assume. I can't say that. Never mind.
Yeah, it was questionable. We'll just say that. I think it's. I think that Kobe is just a far greater offensive player, but again, it's just they're so different. They're so different in how they play the game, how they approach the game. Because Tim Duncan is a different leader than Kobe was, and Kobe, I think even Scap will admit too, like Kobe was a bad leader early on. He had to learn to be a great leader, and Tim Duncan was always that guy. There isn't like this character arc for Tim Duncan. He was always that stable, lead by example type guy, and he's easy to get along with. So I mean, even when when Scott brought up the point, like the Lakers went through 7 coaches, I'm like, is part of that, like Kobe's tougher to coach than Duncan is, And so, I mean, when you get into the off the course stuff, the things that have to do less with the numbers, there's a lot to love and appreciate with Duncan. I just think that I'm not saying Duncan had more help overall. I'm not saying that. I want to clear that up in the comments. I think he had help at points where Kobe didn't. And that's rarely acknowledged in the debate because all you ever hear is Kobe had Shaq. They both had tremendous help, but in different ways. Kobe, I think, had peak help because prime Shaq is one of the most dominant players in the history of the game. But again, that's where the longevity comes into the longevity of the help.
Johnny, is there a more dominant, real quick, can't the argument be made that Shaq was the most dominant player in his prime in the history of the league?
I'm going to steer the conversation away if I give you the answer. So, Dart, you might have to rein us back in.
Okay.
But that's Wilt Chamberlain for sure.
Say no more. Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, it's Wilt Chamberlain. It's not even close.
And anybody who tries to argue otherwise, they always bring up things that aren't true. That's like he dominated small guys. Now we have the numbers. We have how tall they were. We have all that. Oh, well, he was just dunking. No, go look up the quality of the shots he was taking. Consider the fact that he was playing Bill Russell and Nathan. I bring up all the same points all the time. It's Wilt.
Robin, do you have anything to add that was going on in this conversation for a while? I just want to give you opportunity if you have something to say.
I mean, goodness gracious, you guys said a lot of stuff right there, man. Once again, it looks like to me that this is a conversation when we talk about Tim Duncan, because everything goes right back to that consistency stuff, man. And what we can't deny is his impact on winning. That's what Tim Duncan allows you to ultimately do. When you talk about the head coaches, you talk about the teammates, you talk about the general managers, you talk about the whole organization overall, man. It starts with someone like a Tim Duncan being that organizational piece. These are the kinds of plays that you hope to draft, isn't it? You want an organizational guy who comes in immediately and has an impact. Why is Tim Duncan's name the big fundamental? Well, it happens because he does everything the right way. That's why Tim Duncan is known as a big fundamental, and his immediate impact, immediately making the all-defensive team and being, like I said, one of those primetime players from the minute he stepped in. So I think when we think about Tim Duncan, we can't deny his impact of winning. Can we say he's greater than Kobe Bryant? No, maybe we can. Like I said, it's maybe a harder argument to make, but I think that you can still make an argument for Tim Duncan because he has true, genuine longevity and durability when you talk about an overall career, having an impact from beginning to the end, allowing guys like Kawhi Leonard. Kawhi Leonard wasn't an all-star player or defensive player of the year award winner when they won that championship in 2014. He became that player, but he was able to win with Tim Duncan because that goes to Tim Duncan's greatness. And once again, holding everybody to a certain standard in that organization, that goes to Tim Duncan, man. So we can't take away those kinds of things, man.
Yeah, I wanted to go back what Johnny what Johnny was saying and what Scap was saying is that the teams having 7 different coaches. I'm going to use a curse word on this channel. Is LeBron-esque. I mean, it's Wilt Chamberlain-esque. I mean, I'm sorry for all the Kobe fans out there, but I had to just throw that jab in there. It's blasphemous to curse, but anyway. No, I just think that to the point of it is that, yeah, he was a great overall player. If you want to argue that his peak was stronger, I can understand that. I just don't think it's as important of winning. He was able to win 5 championships, 3 different decades, almost won finals MVP, which is almost a woulda, coulda, shoulda thing. If they had won that series the year before in 2013, I think a lot of people would have said that he was likely going to win finals MVP. And I think he had a real argument to win it in 2014. But besides the point is that I think a lot of people go and they hyper-focus in on the statistics of Kobe Bryant, even when he was down without winning games. So I think you have to have both for it to be and granted, Tim Duncan's exceptional with how he won all these, how he was successful in every season that he played, and he's an exception. It's not a norm. But that's another reason why I think he should be valued more, is because he is an exception to the norm. Kobe Bryant had these great individual stats in his peak, let's just say the 2010s, generically speaking. Excuse me, 2000s. The point of it is that I think that there was some downtime there where a lot of his individual impact was exasperated more because they were putting a lot more of the load on him, and it didn't result in winning. So I don't think that's a good case. For me, that's why I put guys like Wilt Chamberlain lower on the ring of things, is because even though they were individually statistically dominant, or dominant more than most people against their contemporaries, I think that the winning does matter too. And I think that's one of the reasons why I put Kobe down farther than I do Tim Duncan.
I want to answer a question real quick that I saw in the chat. It was Diesel. Pre-Mamba mentality, Kobe and Shaq, those 2 3-peat Lakers were, I mean, I'm speaking from my experience, seen as the villains of the league throughout most of their dominance. Kobe really wasn't a fan favorite until the whole Mamba mentality thing set in. And then once his work ethic started to outshine pretty much everybody in the league, as the league got lazier, he started to get seen more as like a hero. And I don't know about role model as much, but he got seen as a hard worker. So he was definitely a villain. Him, Shaq, Rick Fox, Robert Horry, that whole team. Nobody could stand them because they were just winning. They were just dominating.
All right.
Yeah, my experience is different. I grew up in Cali during that time, and so I mean, everybody thought the Lakers were heroes there. But yeah, I mean, that's the thing that's tricky about, like, there's so much nuance to this, but whenever anybody brings up Kobe and how he wasn't recognized for MVP awards until a certain point, it's like, I don't know if there's ever been a player who's been more hindered by the narratives in the MVP discussion than Kobe was. Because obviously he had the Colorado thing, and then he had Kobe had Shaq. So how are we going to even take a look at him? It's like he didn't never even had a chance. And then after that, it was, well, Kobe's not winning enough. You know, let's just ignore the fact that he's got Luke Walton and Smush Parker running out there going to battle with him. So I think you have to factor that in too.
Yo,
Quick
man,
question.
people forget, man, that Shaquille O'Neal's personality, man. You know what I'm saying? He had a great personality, man. He was very popular, Shaquille O'Neal, man. This guy was all over Hollywood, man, making movies, doing rap albums, all kinds of things, man. So when him and Kobe Bryant are not getting along, like I said, that's why it makes Kobe Bryant have to take a little responsibility for them, you know, on the fallout.
Question. Does anybody believe that Tim Duncan could have took the 05 Lakers to the playoffs, that 05-06 squad?
I think it's irrelevant, but I mean, there's so many things compared to it. Like, what coach do they have? How long have they played? You know, how long? You know, it's a what it could have, should have, what if.
As long as you got Tim Duncan there, man, you good. Tim Duncan got you in the back right there. Tim Duncan's that anchor. As long as you got Tim Duncan, man, you good.
I wasn't asking. To Dart's point, yeah, I don't.
Yeah,
I think they'd build the team around.
I wasn't.
No,
I don't think there's a wrong answer. I
was
so. Just curious if anybody thought he could.
Yeah, because that perimeter was awful. Like, he's got no help on the perimeter basically at all. If Duncan's on that squad, but he's probably not going to be with that squad even if he was on the Lakers.
As long as you got Duncan, you go into the playoffs.
All right. To just transition it to the next topic, Spe Engine. How much blame do you think Tim Duncan deserves for the 2004 Olympic bronze medal performance?
I mean, he could have averaged more than 9 rebounds a game for sure, and he could have averaged more points. But at that point, I think he was kind of over it. He was talking about retiring. That team was hold on, actually. That was him, D Wade. Help me out. Who else was on that squad? That was him, D Wade,
LeBron, Allen Iverson.
I mean,
Richard Jefferson, Sean Marion.
Richard Jefferson. I mean, it's like, you know, that was my phone. That was loud as shit. Excuse my cussing. That was loud as LeBron. It's like they're scoring. They were all ISO players with a system player in the middle. And they asked him and Popovich about after the Olympics, and they even said that they were being reffed differently, as in they were actually being reffed. They weren't getting the same calls they were getting in the NBA, and they weren't used to it. And I don't even think he really wanted to be there.
I got a question. Actually, you know what? I'm going to look this myself. Anyway, disregard. Robin, what do you got to say about all this?
Well, I mean, listen. when we talk about blame and responsibility, I think that obviously Tim Duncan needs to take some kind of responsibility for the 2004 bronze medal. If we're talking about in the historical perspective of USA Olympic play, and we're talking about the history of Tim Duncan, his career. If you're having a debate, so to speak, against another player, and you want to rank somebody, you could use this against Tim Duncan and his overall greatness, his overall career. Because when you think about the players that are on that team, we mentioned some of these guys. I think we can also put some of the blame on Allen Iverson as well as the Tim Duncan. If we talk about where they were at in the points of their careers, when we talk about someone like a LeBron James, or Carmelo Anthony's, the Dwayne Wades, the Richard Jeffersons, some of these other guys that were on that team, we think about where they weren't at in their careers. They really established themselves yet. You know what I'm saying? They weren't really household names as far as we talk about these guys. They were rookies, so to speak. But I think, yeah, you could put some of the responsibility on Tim Duncan. Like I said, if you're talking about his overall career, and once again, we're talking about USA basketball, and we talk about getting the medals, and talk about being, like I said, living up to that standard of the quote-unquote dream team, then, yeah, you obviously have to put some responsibility on Tim Duncan, because you could probably argue he was the best player on that team in 2004.
Hey, guys, what's up? Sorry. Sorry, I vanished. I was having some Wi-Fi problems, so I had to. It's not a wardrobe change; it's a location change. So, but I am mimosa'd up right now, so I'm back. I'm back in the game, and I don't know. Nice. I know I was out for about 8 to 10 minutes there. I don't know if the point has been made, so I just want to slide my way back in with this point. Has it been mentioned that Timmy, despite his sustained excellence and dominance with the San Antonio Spurs, was never able to defend the championship? Stop me if I'm the guy that's just coming in here and it's already been said, but seriously, never one time, not once, was there a title defense authored by Tim Duncan. Kobe did the three-peat. I don't want to hear Shaq's name. We can dig more into the Shaquille O'Neal argument if we must, but Kobe Bryant was a part of one of only 3 three-peats in modern era NBA history. So from the post-merger 1976 ABA-NBA merger, 3 three-peats ever. Jordan did it twice. Kobe did it once. Then he repeated again in 08-09, and he was in the mix to get back maybe. He went to 3 straight finals. So Tim Duncan, not a single title defense. Does that not have to be factored into this overall case between the two?
So I will say this real quick.
This is something that grinds my gears. Is
God, I got you.
Is that people will just, this is just a sidebar, that people will ignore the three-peat that George Mikan did, the first three-peat of all time, and then also, well, that's what I'm saying, is that people excuse the pre-merger, and then there's the Bill Russell with the 8-peat. But anyway, I digress. What were you saying, Hoop God?
So no, what Scap said, that is very essential. No, he did not three-peat, and I do feel like that can be a knock against him. However, if we bring this to the table, just follow me. Who stopped the Lakers from 4-peating? Okay, who stopped the Miami Heat Big 3 from 3-peating? Okay, who stopped the Detroit Pistons from going back to back? So I'm saying that to say this. I'm still favoring Kobe, by the way. I'm just giving Duncan a little bit of credit. No, he didn't three-peat, but he stopped a 4-peat, he stopped a 3-peat, and he stopped a repeat. And I think that's very significant, because without him interrupting those guys, now we have that putrid Miami Heat 3-peat, which I'm just glad it never happened now, looking back in hindsight. But I actually was rooting for the Detroit Pistons back then. But now seeing that Duncan stopped it, okay, it gives me a little bit more clarity on how effective he was. And then, of course, like you guys said, the Kobe and Shaq Lakers, they already 3-peat and were going for a 4-peat. So I customarily call Tim Duncan the dynasty killer. No, he didn't create one. No, he didn't. But he also stopped a lot of other ones from being established as well. I just want to say that.
It's a fair point. I do want to just slide some context in on that year when Duncan stopped the 4-peat. Kobe did tear his labrum and his shooting shoulder in the first round of those playoffs. I just want to acknowledge that did happen. Oh, and he didn't make any excuses either, by the way. Shout out to LeBron. He wasn't talking about his torn shoulder after they lost to the Spurs. He just a tear-filled Kobe Bryant with his tear-filled eyes on the court afterwards said he would push himself to exhaustion to overcome the failure of that.
Hey, Scap, that's not fair. At the end of the day, it's just basketball. That's not fair. It's just basketball.
I just wanted to add something because talking about these Kobe injuries, if I'm not mistaken, Tim Duncan blew out his knee in his second NBA season and still had the career he had. Just to put that out there.
Actually, Dart, that's a good. I just want to piggyback. There's so many good points here. So, Tim Duncan won the championship, as we know, like in that lockout season after the Jordan final, the sixth and final championship in Utah. Tim Duncan wins that ring. Then, of course, Kobe and Shaq then come back and win. But Tim Duncan was hurt, obviously that season. So there was some talk about there was like an asterisk that Greg Popovich was insinuating needed to be put on that Lakers, that first championship with when Phil Jackson came and young 21-year-old Kobe Bryant, and that was Shaquille O'Neal's MVP season. So they were on this collision course in that year, and I believe it's 2000, 2001. Actually, people don't know this. Even though the Lakers were defending their title, the Spurs were the number 1 seed in the Western Conference that year. So they had the 1 seed, and that was being dubbed as like this big heavyweight showdown between the last 2 defending champions. The Lakers whooped that ass. They absolutely obliterated the San Antonio Spurs. It was a humiliating sweep job. I think it was like a 20-point per game margin of difference in that 4-game sweeping. And it wasn't Tim Duncan who was the best player on the court. It wasn't Shaquille O'Neal who was the best player on the court. It was at the time 22-year-old Kobe Bryant leading that ass beating in that 4-game sweeper. So I just wanted to sprinkle that like the little salt bay. I just wanted to sprinkle that.
How many mimosas you had already, man?
I'm telling you, the thing that drives me nuts about Western Conference and Eastern Conference MVPs being a thing is how many Kobe should have had a chance at getting that he didn't get. Because if we're going to start factoring that in now and start adding that to modern players' legacies, man, retroactively, that would have killed a lot of the myths about, well, Shaq was just Shaq who was doing it all. He carried Kobe. No, he didn't. You're just saying you were too young to watch the Western Conference playoffs.
Well, 2001 and 2002, he definitely earned those Western Conference MVPs if they had it. Definitely.
Yeah. 2002 was more of a conversation, but 01, that was Kobe. That was Kobe for sure.
So let's just continue asking about the Duncan blame real fast, and we can go back to this real fast also before we take in more callers. But Scap, how much blame do you think Tim Duncan deserves for the 2004 bronze medal performance of the Olympic team?
Look, I mean, we dub LeBron LeBrons because he had that 04 bronze. He had then the 06 world's bronze as well. But look, even though I like to dig the knife into LeBron's back on that, I think he was 22 maybe at the time. I mean, Tim Duncan was like 28 years old. It was like prime, like MVP caliber Tim Duncan. Generally, the best guy has to wear that, right? And you had Tim Duncan, who was, he was the best player on that team at that time. So, look, that team had a lot of dysfunction and it just looked like it was headed for disaster from the beginning. So, I don't know that I necessarily tarnished Tim Duncan's resume or his overall legacy because of that. But you do have to factor in that Kobe Bryant came and restored order then in 2008. Like Kobe came in quick fashion. And look, was he dominating every game? No, he kind of laid back. He played the team game. But then when he was needed in the gold medal game against Spain in 2008, he was by far the best player on the floor, by far. And if you see, there was a great documentary on that. And it's great to see. Of course, LeBron won't do it because of the egotism that surrounds that guy. But all of the other guys were just the way they talk, the reverence that they have for Kobe, and basically saying like, yo, guys were legitimately afraid out there. Like we're in like a 1-score game. It's going to be like a stain on us, stain on the country. Kobe was the killer. He was the one that wanted that. He was the one that captured that for them. So for Tim Duncan to lose like 20-point blowout to Puerto Rico, I think they lost to Lithuania, Argentina. That was an absolutely humiliating run. But when you, again, not tarnishing Duncan, but when you factor in what Kobe did 4 years later, I think that's another chip in the Kobe side of the argument in this head-to-head debate.
Real quick, Scap. since you're all mimosa'd up talking about pre and post merger decisions, and I have to apologize for this too. They said in the chat that we only talk about LeBron, and damn it, I brought it up, and then you just brought it up. I counted 4 times, so you're gonna have to do something to counterbalance that. So they look stupid in the chat. That's all. Proceed.
I mean, they don't get upset when Clutch Sports brings up Michael Jordan, so I don't understand the hypocrisy.
I was
there.
actually
Like, I
defending
really don't.
LeBron though. There, did you see that, Jock Sniffers? Did you get that? LeBron Jock Sniffers out
That
there.
don't
I
matter.
defended
No,
LeBron
that
for
doesn't
that
matter.
04 LeBron.
Yeah, that
That wouldn't
over
matter.
his head.
Yeah.
No, it went over.
You didn't.
his head.
You didn't defend him enough. It wasn't a no. But oh, on a sidebar, before Johnny gives his take, this I found ironic. I was trying to see if Lamont could do his debate on Sunday against this guy Ray Petrie, and he said he was working for NBA China for Roku TV this weekend. So
Oh, wow.
if that's not Clutch Sports, I don't know what is. But anyway, not it.
Hey, Lamont, I'm still waiting on my email, sir.
Oh yeah, I'm not.
He
I'm
didn't
not.
tell you he was busy. He had to give you the whole 411, huh?
Hey, Sports, I'm coming to the conclusion that he's a little bit trepidated. I mean, I'm
He
trying to be
loves to
generous here.
shout out everything and name drop. He's a big name dropper and everything, man. I see him.
Wait, guys, I'm sorry. I'm going to show my ignorance here. Is that FYF Sports? Is that?
Yes.
Oh
yes.
yeah.
Okay. I just want to say it's suspicious. I don't know how often he appears on this specific stream, but it's suspicious that he made a 9-hour video on me, and when the second I started making appearances on this, he's now nowhere to be found. I just want to that smells a little fishy to me. I'm just saying.
Yeah. He's done live. He's done a 7-hour live.
There's
stream on me.
something rotten in Denmark.
Scap is drinking Hennessy, I think.
All right, let's roll it back in. Johnny, how much blame do you think Tim Duncan deserves for the 04 bronze medal performance?
Honestly, I don't. I'm going to defend Duncan here. I don't factor it into the comparison. I don't think it's fair to factor it into the comparison because, yes, everybody knows the impact Kobe had coming back in 08. But having LeBron and Wade and all the – because LeBron and Wade, if you look at how they performed, they were right behind Kobe. Kobe obviously gets the extra points for influencing that team defensively and giving them leadership. But like LeBron and Wade were killing it too. They were in 08 form. They weren't, in 04 form. So I feel like that's a little bit unfair to Tim Duncan. And I also think that USA thing is really a greater issue about USA basketball. And I made a video about this where USA believes, I still believe, we're the best in the world at basketball, but we don't have our guys working together and playing together all the time. So what we do is we beat teams and we beat the rest of the world, and then we get complacent and we lose. And now we're pissed off and we bring everybody back and we stomp them all. And then over time we get complacent and then we lose. Then we come back, bring everybody back and stop them. That was where they were at with 08 is like, we're done playing around. 04 was that complacency phase. I'm worried that there's going to come a certain point where we come back and bring everybody back. And now we show the world who's boss. And the rest of the world's getting better. I don't know if that's going to work forever, but so for that reason, I don't think that's fair to Duncan because that's where we were at. Is guys were complacent. We didn't have the best team. All these guys aren't used to playing together. We had a bunch of basically rookies on the team. Yeah, I don't think that's fair.
20 seconds. I don't want to disagree with pretty much anything you said, Johnny, but I do just want to say this. Unequivocally, they lose in 08 with no Kobe. If Kobe's not on the roster, Spain would have beat them in the gold medal. We would not have got the gold medal that year either.
100%. Yeah.
Okay, what do you got to say? You're muted.
Okay. My apologies. I was on mute. So when I'm looking at 2004, yeah, that roster, they didn't really complement one another. When you look at it, that there was I think it was too many isolation guys. Like, yeah, you need maybe 2 or 3, but at the most, that team, I don't know, it was just poorly constructed. And I remember Larry Brown speaking on that. He said his 04 Detroit Pistons teams could have went over there, represented the U.S. and brought back the gold, in which I do believe him. I'm not going to knock his basketball intellect. But speaking on Duncan, so if he's going to be considered an all-time great, I look at it like it's par for the course. The reason being, had Kobe Bryant led the 08 team over there, and they would have got the silver medal. As much slander and vitriol that Kobe Bryant gets, we would never hear the end of that. That's all we would hear. Oh, Kobe he got silver. We would have all the silver medal memes. And I mean, they would just bombard us. So I have to factor that into the equation, because for Tim Duncan to be an all-time great, yes, he was on a poorly constructed team. I will point that out. However, if you're one of the lead dogs and you don't get it done, well, it's par for the course. You have to get the blame. Because as I said before, had Kobe Bryant not brought back the gold, he would get the blame. But for Kobe to go over there and do what he did, and with all the off-court stuff surrounding him, trying to reshape his image and just all this nonsense, I think it was very profound for him to be the leader that Coach K had to go out. No. I'm sorry. Coach K, Jerry Colangelo, Mike D'Antoni, and Nate McMillan, the entire coaching staff had to go get him because they did not have that alpha dog that they needed. So they sought him out, and he lived up to the expectations and ultimately surpassed it, in which that's what Duncan did not do in 2004. Granted, he did not have the correct roster. Yeah, he didn't have the guys that Kobe had. However, as the leader of the team, you still have to find some formula for success, and he just didn't get it done. So I have to hold that over him, like just being objective about it. So that's my take on the whole Olympic experience between the two.
Real fast. I figured out that something has messed up with my streaming service in respect to having all the chats of all the channels. It should be a lot faster. It's only coming from my channel on the overlay. So I want to apologize for anyone that super chatted, Johnny, Scap, or Robin, for me not being able to call you out because it's not showing up on my side. Usually it does, something happens. So I apologize for anybody that may have done that. I would have flashed it and or shouted it out. So, but in respect to the Tim Duncan with the 04 bronze medal, if I had to point the finger at a single person, I would have to spread it equally out between him and Allen Iverson. However, as shown in the Redeem Team documentary, they had a lot of players that were supposed to play drop out of that Olympic squad. So I think if you're going to collectively blame anybody, it would have to be all the people that dropped out of that Olympic team. However, again, if you have to put the most blame because they were there at that time and space doing what they had to do, I'd have to split it up between Allen Iverson and Tim Duncan. Obviously, with anything in life, it's more convoluted and complicated than that. But I do believe, in a phrase, he deserves blame for them not being able to win the gold medal. It was, like was said, he was one of the greatest players in the world at the time. I think that it was embarrassing, frankly, for the USA to get bronze. Now, one thing I want to mention, too, is that I can't stand, this is a sidebar, but I just want to bring it up, is that with FIBA, is that nobody cares about FIBA in respect to the NBA players. They let all the young guys go there, even though it's the Basketball World Cup. It is purely about basketball. It's not the Olympics. And then when they go to when they lose there, like in this year, they're like, oh, well, we just can't let international basketball play to USA fail. No, you only care because the Olympics is 10 times bigger marketing wise, and you're able to put your face out there and sell Nike. Don't act like you care about international basketball. You don't, at least in the respect that you're portraying. So I just want to add that out there. It's kind of annoying to hear people say that stuff.
100%. I will say this. I just want to throw this out there. That 04 team was a mess, but if there's one player that I think really at that point would have just made them succeed and probably would have given them the gold, it was Jason Kidd. That team was missing Jason Kidd. They didn't have good ball distributors. You look at guys like Tim Duncan, Amari Stoudemire and the pick and roll, Richard Jefferson, who Jason Kidd has done well with. And they had shooters that he could have connected with. I think that was the missing piece. And that again, it's a team sport. As much as we want to make it about one guy and blame one guy, it's as we know with Kobe in 05 to 07, like the supporting cast matters. And so I'm trying to defend Duncan a little bit on that end.
Didn't Kobe have surgery that year in that summer?
04, he signed a big old contract. He was just coming off of a Colorado thing. I don't know. There was a while where Kobe had excuse after excuse for not being part of USA. I can't remember what that
Well,
was.
no. In 2000s, he got married, so I knew he wasn't going to be in the 2000 squad. But if I'm not mistaken, he had surgery in 04, and I think Shaq just he wasn't even trying to participate for whatever reason.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Those guys don't get blamed just because they didn't show up, but they're the ones leaving the rest of the troop to go out there shorthanded. So again, I think there's a lot of parties involved for the failing of a USA team.
Dart, why were players dropping out? I don't remember why players were dropping out of the Olympics back then.
Because they didn't take it serious, man.
It was just that. Okay. Coaches. Well, no, because I'm saying now players drop out just based out of pure whatever the fuck. And
because like he was saying, like my man was saying, like it got to a certain point where we just thought we could win just by showing up. You know, we didn't take it serious. And then there was a cycle, you know what I'm saying? And that's why guys were dropping out. Oh, we could just send a bunch of athletic guys there, because that's literally what the team was. Let's just send a bunch of athletic guys out there with the USA. We'll dominate. And that's when we started to realize, no, we have to get guys that actually can play together, that actually have different kinds of games. You know what I'm saying? And you need some actual leaders. You need guys that play different positions, man.
All right. Do you guys have anything more you want to talk about Kobe versus Duncan before we start taking calls?
Take the calls.
All right. For everyone on everyone else's channel, the easiest way to call in is to come to my channel and then go and click the link to be able to call in. I also wanted to say that if you liked what I had to say, or anyone else that you're not subscribed to in the show, please go to their channel and subscribe to their channels. We'd all appreciate it very much. But yeah, I think this discussion led to everyone agreeing that Tim Duncan's better than Kobe Bryant.
You tried, Don. You tried, man.
No, it's a never-ending cycle. But I think it's a better debate for in comparison to the Jordan versus LeBron stuff. I think this one is a lot more closer and actually a real debate, in my opinion.
And both players are generally appreciated and respected.
Yeah, right, exactly, right. My bad, Scap.
That's all right.
Now you've set the tone for all the calls.
Yeah, but I've dropped the link in the chat. So, and then my channel, you can find it as Michael Jordan Fans Are the Best.
Oh, I do want to give a shout out. I didn't see the game yet, guys. I DVR'd it while we're waiting. Just cut me off if a caller comes on. But until then, I just want to mention I've DVR'd that U.S. played Serbia today, and I've been seeing updates popping up in the chat on my phone that I think Kevin Durant came in and rescued them today. I heard Serbia was kind of working them early, and then Durant came in and was the best player on the floor. So I just wanted to give a shout out to KD for today's performance.
All right.
Does anybody else's legacy take a hit if we lose in these Olympics, other than he who shall not be named?
Oh no, Kevin Durant's going to take a hit as well.
Oh, Scap, I think you missed when I cursed at Kobe, saying that his the coach dropping was LeBron-esque. I cursed at him.
I more so blame the organization for the upheaval in the years, and even the first couple years before Phil Jackson, that was a mess too. If you remember, like Kurt Rambis was coaching some of the time in there, Del Harris, like it was just a disaster in the early years. I mean, that you have Kobe Bryant, who Jerry West. I'm just going to keep talking till a caller comes in here. Someone call in and interrupt me.
AOH is here. He called in.
Hey, the king of interrupting. I'll be rude. Shut up, Scat. Damn.
Welcome, AOH. I know you had some things going on today, but I appreciate you calling in. Did you have a question that you wanted to say to everybody or ask somebody?
A few things. Scap, this is for you. I don't know if you saw my game breakdown, but you'll appreciate this. Did you see the announcers tried to rewrite history and say that LeBron James co-anchored the 2008 Redeem Team? If you missed that detail.
I did see that. I actually did see you mention it. Actually, it was you have to love revisionism these days.
Holy shit. A little topic I don't think you guys mentioned, but I thought was interesting was that both Kobe and Duncan had Big Shot Bob on championship teams.
Yeah.
Let's see. isn't it a little bit disappointing that we didn't have what you would think the league wanted, LeBron versus Kobe in any of the finals? Then we would have really got to see who the league favored in terms of reffing or what the storyline was meant to be, who they were favoring at that time. I know it seems like the conversation feels like Kobe was kind of being shut out by the league by then, so maybe they would have blatantly favored LeBron. But if they had, and LeBron had defeated Kobe, whether it was fair or not, interesting conversations we'd be having these days. And so we're talking about reffing a little bit, and somebody said that during that era, if you were in California, everybody loved the Lakers. Well, NorCal may have
Not
felt
NorCal, yeah.
NorCal.
I was Central and lived in SoCal a little while. Yeah, NorCal, you didn't like them very much. Sacramento.
Well, we remember the favoritism, and here's the stink bomb I'm going to leave. Man, the Kobe Shaq Lakers got so much help from the league. And if the Sacramento Kings series is one of the most disgusting things that's happened in NBA history. Mm-hmm. So with Tim Duncan being non-flashy and the Spurs being non-flashy, would anyone say that the league ever favored them with reffing to help them get over the hump and maybe get another title or two that they otherwise might not have gotten?
No, they were
and that's my
boring as
stink
hell
bomb.
and ratings sucked. Yeah, no way.
I do want to mention that series that actually young Jay Scap Attack was this is a true story. Growing up in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, there was a massive storm and a subsequent power outage for Game 6 of the 2002 Western Conference Finals, that the famed Tim Donaghy game. So I watched that game on like a 5-inch black and white antenna, like battery operated TV. So I've in recent years, I've rewatched the full game. I do just want to say, I know there's that shrouded in controversy, that Game 6 where the Lakers had the massive free throw discrepancy in Game 6. That series did go a Game 7, however, which was in Arco Arena in Sacramento, and it went into overtime, that Game 7 as well. And I think the Kings, this is totally top of my head, missed like 11 free throws in that game that they lost in overtime on their home floor in Game 7. So, and if you look at the overall free throw discrepancy or whatever it was in that series, I mean, they shot essentially an identical amount of free throws, the Kings and the Lakers, in the seven game series. It's not like we're talking LeBron James, to mention his name one more time, free throw disparity, which he's appreciated in these last 2 years, where he's shooting like hundreds of more free throws than his opponents. So I want to spray some Febreze on your stink bomb on that application that Kobe was getting.
Here's the counter. Okay, here's an interesting counter thought. You look at when Ray Allen hit that shot, and then they went to a Game 7 in that series, and also the Kings and the Lakers that we just talked about going to that Game 7. This is excuse making, but that hurts teams when you're not supposed to go to a Game 7 and you're emotionally taken out of it. I mean, that makes a difference. Mm-hmm. That makes a difference when you shouldn't go to that Game 7 and then you do. That changes history.
Yeah, and I'm gonna chime in, and I'm actually on Angry Old Hoops' side on this one. Like, I listen, I understand how you get there with Game 7 and the free throws being the same. We have plenty of evidence that Game 6 was influenced. It shouldn't have gone that long. That is the one major criticism against Kobe's legacy, where if somebody would say, yeah, Duncan has 5 and Kobe has 5, but he really should have 4 if basketball had more integrity. And I'd be like, yeah, it's a good point. Now we can move forward in the debate, because, there's so much dishonesty throughout the league's history that I can't stand. I made like a giant 2-hour compilation video of the NBA being sketchy, and that is one of the big things I talked about, which sucks because that was one of my best memories as a Lakers fan. But even I go back and watch that game, and I'm like, man, Kobe really did elbow Mike Bibby in the face pretty good. There's a lot of instances where you're like, man. So yeah, again, I think that is like, I'll take that one in the chin. I think that's a valid criticism.
AOH, were you saying that the Spurs were not getting a lot of ref help?
Well, I can't remember that. So the fact that I wasn't even thinking about it makes me. Here's what I'll say. Tim Duncan wasn't a marketing tool the way Kobe was, or the way that Shaq was, or the way that even LeBron was. So then you wonder about how much help a non-flashy player would get. Having said that, I didn't really analyze it to see if it was that unfair, but I did. Like you guys know, I rooted against the Shaq and Kobe Lakers, and I do remember Tim Duncan playing against Shaq and getting abused by Shaq, not always legally abused. So,
Yeah, I couldn't stand the Spurs back then really either. I couldn't stand Tony Parker. And Manu Ginobili, I feel like was like one of the original flop artists.
wow.
So I can objectively kind of say that. I feel like they did. I think they did a fair share of working the refs themselves. I think most refs were scared of Popovich.
Interesting.
So it wasn't all Lakers, but the Spurs, they got a little help, I feel like.
AOH, Gary backstage wants to ask you a question. Are you good to answer a question? And then I don't know
Sure.
if you want to hang out for the calls or if you're gonna get out of here.
I'll stay as long as my beer lasts, and then I got to get back to work outside.
Okay. Gary, welcome, Gary. How are you today, sir?
Oh, am I on? No, I didn't want AOH only. I wanted all y'all to answer this. I'm throwing a monkey wrench in here. This is what pisses me off. This is what no one talks about. The reason Tim Duncan and Kobe Bryant are lock and lock with each other is because the San Antonio Spurs made the stupidest, most bone-headed signing of all time. Why? I'm a Spurs fan, by the way. Why did we sign Richard Jefferson? We won in 03. We won in 05. We should have won in 06. Dirk tackled Tim Duncan practically before that game went into overtime. We would have repeated in 06. We won in 07. And we're like, hey, you know what? We won 3 championships in the last 5 years. Let's sign Richard Jefferson, who does not fit in anywhere in our system. So in 08, the Celtics won because the Spurs sucked. The Spurs lost in 08, 9, 10, 11 to the Mavericks, to the Grizzlies in the first round. They were getting beat up like a bunch of rookies. Chris Paul with the Hornets came in his rookie year, his first or second year, and dominated the Spurs in the playoffs because Richard Jefferson jacked up our entire system. So
who would you have liked them to sign instead of Richard Jefferson?
No one. Keep them intact as are. Hold on. I'm almost done. So
Okay.
then 08, 09, 2010, when Kobe's dominating, by the way, because the Spurs suck because Richard Jefferson messed up. So what happened? Hold on. I'm going to prove my point right here. So what happens is in 2012, before the trade deadline, we said, you know what we're going to do? We're going to swap Richard Jefferson to the Warriors for Steven Jackson. And now, my San Antonio Spurs are back. We went, look it up. We went like 33-2 after getting rid of Richard Jefferson, bringing Steven Jackson back, who was part of the 03 championship, right? And then what happened? We went on
If
10
nothing
straight
else-
wins. 10 straight wins.
Gary, yeah, can you?
I give you props for the-
What question do you have? Or are you just making a comment?
I want all of you.
Come on, just ask the
I want all
question.
of you to make a
Yeah.
video about this. Richard Jefferson doesn't go to the Spurs. What would the Spurs and Tim Duncan have been? We would have been, we definitely would have been there against the Lakers in 08, 09, and 2010.
What if
Do all of you think that the Lakers would have won? I think the Spurs would have won one of those. I think the Spurs would have got one more championship. I don't know.
All right, Gary. Yep. Who wants to?
Come on, man. This live stream is like hours.
Someone call
I'm going
911
for
for
2 or
Gary.
3 minutes.
There's like 8. There's people trying to call, and we got to let everyone get a chance,
Oh,
Gary. I gave you
come
more
on.
than
I just
like
wanna
2
compliment
minutes
him
more
on
than
his rant.
everyone else usually.
If you're being
was a
held
great-
hostage, blink twice.
That was a great rant. If nothing else, that was a great rant. Good job, Gary.
I'll give a little feedback to it real quick. You have a great point. And like if Kobe Bryant as a wing scorer is one of the best players in the league, he is, going to be your rival in the Western Conference. Yeah, Richard Jefferson was just the wrong hire. I'll give you that. I will say you are a very passionate Spurs fan. And as a passionate Lakers fan, we all have our mistakes within the organization where you're like, why the hell did you do this? And we all hang on to that. I will say this as a compliment, my man, Gary, 828, start your own channel because good Lord, you have got passion, my friend. You need to start your own channel and start speaking into a mic. He's muted.
See ya.
I want to piggyback real quick on Johnny. Like, what if the Lakers didn't trade Shaquille O'Neal for Caron Butler and Lamar Odom? Like, there was a third player in there that's slipping my mind. Brian Grant, Caron Butler, and Lamar Odom for an all NBA caliber Shaquille O'Neal still. Like, Kobe was the best player in the NBA then, and they got literal scrap heaps back. Like, what if the Lakers didn't do that? What if they actually got a viable package in return for Shaquille O'Neal and surrounded Kobe with some like viable supporting cast at that point? Like, who knows? You can't play the what if, the would have, could have, like with the supporting cast, because like Johnny said, there is a million things that
wasn't really free choice.
Lakers did to Kobe.
Kobe and Shaq kind of forced that, though.
All right,
but that doesn't mean you need to trade Shaq for a penny on the dollar.
Well, I don't know how to
appreciate you, Gary. Great feedback, man.
Yeah. Let's let Gary respond, and then we'll let the next caller on. What do you got to say, Gary?
My main question is not so much why did the Spurs sign them. My question is, if they hadn't and they just kept the team intact, they won 3 championships in 5 years and very well could have won in 06. Should have won if Dirk had been called for that foul. Look it up at the end of Game 7 before they went to overtime. Ginobili misses that shot, and Duncan just went to do a fundamental tip-in to win the game. Dirk jumps on his shoulders, pulls him down. Literally, go back and look at it. My point is, what would the Spurs and Duncan's legacy have been if they had not signed Richard Jefferson? I want all of y'all, well, I'm not to say all, but some of you who really like to make videos, I would love to hear people's feedback on a video about that.
What if
Richard Jefferson slander has to stop?
Thank you for thank you.
Can I say? Oh.
I know he's your brother, but thank you for calling.
Yeah, it's got to
Gary.
stop.
Yeah.
The ugly version of me does not.
Thanks, Gary.
Appreciate you, Gary.
All right, Robin, did you want to say something in response? It sounded like you wanted to say something real fast before we let Platanos talk.
Yeah, no, I wanted to talk to the guy real quick, man. Make a couple comments about Richard Jefferson. But no, go ahead, go to my man, let him talk.
All right, Platanos, you got a minute to ask a question. I'd let Gary go and wait a lot longer because there's a lot of people that want to call. But you got a minute to ask your question or say.
What? Yeah. Okay. All right. It wasn't a question. It was a comment. Tim Duncan clears Kobe clearly. Like, it's not like, Michael Jordan versus LeBron levels of distance, but it's obvious that Tim Duncan clears Kobe. And let me tell you why. Kobe never beat Tim Duncan without a better team. Tim Duncan never beat Kobe without a better team. It just works both ways. So we have to look at it based off their achievements. One has more MVPs and more Finals MVPs, the same amount of rings. Like, how can you even say that Kobe has an argument over Tim Duncan when he doesn't have any accolades or any I'm not seeing like what is the argument? Like, Tim Duncan's a better defender, clears him. Tim Duncan carried the Spurs offense. He's a playmaker, way better rebounder. Like, the only thing Kobe does better is shoot and score overall. And I would say he's a better playmaker, but I mean, Tim Duncan was carrying offenses too.
Yep. Does anyone want to
Scap,
respond
you
to his
want that
comment?
one? Go ahead, Scap. I know you want this.
I just want to say.
I
real
got you,
fast,
Scap.
I just want to say real fast. Tim Duncan, guys, coming out on the lines. I appreciate it. Anyway,
Yes,
yeah. What you got to say?
Yeah, no, I think I've been making the point for however long we've been on. I think, I don't look accolades. I don't really look to league MVP. Like, Kobe Bryant had more top 10 or top 5 MVP finishes than Tim Duncan. Like, okay, Kobe Bryant has the third most top 10, top 5 MVP finishes in NBA history. Like, everybody else in the pantheon surrounding Kobe has like 4 or 5 league MVPs. I don't care what some arbitrary vote is at the year end by some writers. Like, I look at the fact that Kobe and Duncan had, if you want to say they had comparable supporting casts, fine. I give Tim Duncan the edge. If you want to say Kobe had top heavy and you want to argue for Kobe having better supporting cast by and large, like I'll hear the conversation. ultimately they both won the same amount. Like they had similar casts, they went against similar competition, they won the same amount. I don't think this is. Let me really summarize it and make it as simple as I can. I did it in my open. Let me reaffirm my point. I think I'll give Tim Duncan the check mark defensively, but it's not by a glaring void or gap. Kobe Bryant destroys Tim Duncan when you look at the offensive comparisons between the two. What are you laughing and shaking your head at, bro? 2,000 plus points. Hold on. Kobe Bryant, 2,000 plus points 8 times in his NBA career to once by Tim Duncan. Kobe Bryant, 25 plus points per game, 12 times to Tim Duncan once. Like Kobe Bryant, top 3 in 60, 50, 40-point games. Like, what are you shaking your head at? It's an undisputed fact that Kobe Bryant is substantially above Tim Duncan offensively.
Okay, let me reply.
Yeah, minutes of reply, and we're going to the next caller. Yep.
Okay, I got you. So since you do a lot of research and stuff like that, what I would like you to do is go to the playoffs for Tim Duncan's peak, which is about 99 to 2008, and then look at Kobe Bryant's peak, prime or whatever, which was, I don't know, what you're going to say, 2001 to 2010, and then look at the efficiency. Look at how many points per shot they're each scoring, and then you're going to tell me that Kobe Bryant is this elite, so far ahead scorer or offensive player than Tim Duncan, even though Tim Duncan only scored like 3 or 4 points less on better efficiency. So the 3 or 4 points less on better efficiency, to me, that kind of matches up. I'm not saying he's a better scorer than Kobe, because obviously that is not even close. Like Kobe's a better scorer, but not by efficiency. It's by volume. Kobe's entire shtick is I score a lot at relatively higher than league average volume. But that doesn't mean that he's clearing Tim Duncan on offense when Tim Duncan carried an entire team's offense just like Kobe. It's just that he carried the defensive side as well, and so he didn't have to score as many points. But that doesn't mean anything, because when you look at series that Tim Duncan has against Dirk or any of the other Western Conference teams that were elite back then, he's scoring like 25 to even 30 points a game. That's elite offense.
All right, thank you.
And then one more thing. And then on defense, it's a clear. It's not even close. Kobe Bryant at his peak, right? His defensive peak was 2001 or 2. That's not his all-time peak. His all-time peak was 08-10. He was getting fried by Ray Allen in the finals. Okay, Tim Duncan's not getting fried by anybody in the interior. But go ahead, Scott.
Thank you, Platanos. We're gonna move on to the next caller, but thank you for calling in.
Just let me squeeze one thing in real quick.
Man. Why you cut him off, dog? Let him go.
Because we got a ton of people trying to call in. That's all. I don't want to give people like
30 seconds.
Per person.
30 seconds. This point hasn't been made yet. I just want to say, Bruce Bowen, to Johnny Arnett's point earlier, I believe, was talking about it, that Bruce Bowen was arguably the best defensive player on the Spurs for that kind of mini run after David Robinson left. Bruce Bowen was arguably the best perimeter defender in the NBA at that time. Bruce Bowen's all-time top 5 has Michael Jordan number 1, Tim Duncan number 5, and Kobe Bryant number 2. I just want to slide that in. Bruce Bowen, a guy who's playing alongside Tim Duncan and saw Kobe Bryant up close and personal in the playoffs every year, says that Kobe Bryant is so utterly close to Michael Jordan. It's like 1A and 1B. Okay,
real fast. AOH said he wanted to say something before he gets out of here.
Yeah, and this is for you hardcore Kobe fans, Scap, Johnny. When we saw LeBron and Kobe head-to-head, Kobe dominated. I mean, Kobe made him look pretty bad a few times. This is conspiracy theory, but is there any chance that the league saved LeBron from having to face Kobe in the finals because of the humiliation that he would have suffered and prevented from Kobe to even getting that far?
Yes.
Or is that just the way the teams were at the moment and Kobe wasn't going to get there anyway?
They knew that Cavs team didn't have a chance.
I can take up time. It's possible. I guess I could do the Jordan Steals thing all over again and look at the footage and see what they were doing. But personally, I just think that Orlando Magic team took advantage of the matchup, and the Lakers were better suited. Plus, there's a lot to it. But yeah, of course it's possible.
Wait a minute. Wait. Johnny, let's be serious about this. Not only did Jameer Nelson not play, their most efficient player, because he was 50, 45, and 89. Dwight Howard only played 28 minutes in game 3. So you have all of that going for you, and you still can't capitalize on those advantages. Now, I'm saying it to say this. Kobe Bryant looked like Denzel Washington from Training Day. He was surgical. They had no answer for him.
Mhm.
So you take that same Cleveland team against the Lakers, that's a sweep. We're going to get the brooms out. Getting the brooms out. Get the
Lakers
brooms out. We're
for
going to
sure.
sweep all
If it's
this.
legit, Lakers
sweeping
will
all
win for sure.
Yeah, they want to do.
All right. Well, thank you for calling in, AOH.
Yeah, good to see you guys. I got a crazy week. I'm going to be kind of
Hey,
MIA.
wait, my man.
AOH,
All
what
right.
a drink at, man.
Check out Angry Old Hoops Fan as well if you haven't
guys.
seen him before. Yep. Bye.
All right, sir.
All right.
Like,
We've got
like, you know what I'm saying, Lethal Weapon. You know what I'm saying, Danny Glover and Mel Gibson.
we got Just
hello,
Time.
everybody.
How you doing, Just Time?
Hello.
You got a minute to ask a question or 2 minutes to make a comment.
It's one of the two. I have a question. Between the Kobe's like last 3 times going to the championship and Tim Duncan's 5 years going, I mean, within the 5 years he won 3 rings. Which 2 squads would you pick out of those 2 eras to battle each other for the finals? Because I think it would be a beautiful finals. And then also, the previous guy who was saying like, oh, like Tim Duncan was not getting cooked in the finals. I have to give this to him. Amari Stoudemire was killing him in the playoffs when they Spurs and the Suns met in the finals. So to act like Tim Duncan has never got like cooked or beat defensively is absolutely crazy. I'm sorry, everybody gets got in the NBA. To act like no great defender has never got their ass kicked by a certain player or other players because of matchups is crazy. So I just wanted to put that out there. Even though I think Tim Duncan is better, I have to say that to like defend Kobe because it's ridiculous. You can't just like diss Kobe like that continuously. It makes no sense.
So what's your question again?
So if you take from 2007 to 2009, that Kobe era where he dominated the NBA, and then we take the Spurs from 2003 to 2007, which one of those championship squads would you have taken against each other in the finals? So the Lakers versus the Spurs in the finals, and then you choose out of that 2 eras, which squad would you think would be the best for each other to match up against?
The Spurs.
I would
2003.
Yeah, 2003 Spurs. Based on the window you gave, I would say 2009 Lakers. I like that matchup. I think Ron Artest in 2010 was the right acquisition for the Celtics specifically. But up against that Spurs team, I would go with the 2009 Lakers. I'm not sure if I agree with your premise, though, because you're not counting that first three-peat. And I would definitely take the 2001 Lakers if you open it up a little bit, because that was their best team. And it should be opened up because Kobe was killing it. So.
No. The only reason I take that is because I want to give Kobe the opportunity to be completely the best player on the team. I get that he was close to Shaq, but I think we would all agree that Shaq was the best player at the time. But I'm going for when Kobe was the best player. Also, as a young person,
let's just let other people answer real fast. Anyone else want to answer?
Yeah, I was just saying I wouldn't agree. I think in 2001, that the middle of the 3 years, I think, had there been, we talked about it earlier. Again, I believe it was Johnny that mentioned if there was such a thing as a conference finals MVP or whatever, or even not even just a conference final, the Western Conference final. Just look at the totality of the Western Conference playoffs. Kobe was the best player in the NBA to me in those 2001 Western Conference playoffs. Then look, they get into the finals. It's a favorable matchup for Shaq. He dominated their East opponent. Whatever. Like, I understand. I know what the numbers are, everyone. I know Shaq's finals averages and Kobe's finals averages, but you have to understand this. If you're like 17 years old or whatever, and you weren't alive to be watching it and experiencing it, the true NBA finals played out in the West in those early 2000s runs. Mm-hmm. And Kobe was every bit an equal, if not the better of the two between he and Shaq getting them into the finals. So yeah, I would say I agree with Johnny. 2001 is Kobe's best team. To me, the best team in NBA history. The 2001 LA Lakers, the best single season team in NBA history. The 2 best players to me in the world on one team at one time. It's never been done before. So I would take them over practically any team ever if it's me.
Dart, that's a show right there.
That's
Dart.
ridiculous.
That's
right
my
man.
man.
You have lost your mind. Wait a second. No one even recognizes Shaq and Kobe as the greatest duo of all time. That would happen to be Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen. And why is that?
Let's save this for a whole show.
There's no way in hell the 2001 Lakers are the greatest team of all time. Absolutely not.
Let's
will
save this.
definitely
Let's
devolve into-
table this and do a whole show on this sometime.
All right, real fast, just times. If you want to respond, you got a minute to respond, and then we're gonna move on to the next caller.
Yeah, no. One thing, thank you for guys having me on. I enjoy the content. I've watched like most of your guys' channels, so it's kind of funny seeing y'all collab like this and everything because I barely get time now because I work in construction. But also, I also want to understand this. When we talk about the greatest teams of all time, isn't that just a better argument to discuss than just players versus players? Because if we all believe basketball is a team game, wouldn't it just be easier to have a discussion about the greatest teams? Or would we like to have a discussion about what's the greatest team to never win a championship? Because I understand that people even think the 2019 Rockets are up there with the 1997 Jazz and stuff like that. So I don't know if you ever going to have that topic, but that's something I've always thought in my head. But thank you guys. Appreciate it.
All right.
Yo, thank you for
Just
calling
Times.
in, man.
Yep.
Thank you, sir.
Appreciate it, man.
We've got Layla. We're gonna go back to asking one person because I want to get more callers on here.
No, I like this way. It's funny. I think you should just keep awkwardly cutting people off.
All right,
This is great.
We've got Laylo here. Welcome, Laylo. You got a minute to ask a question or 2 minutes to make a comment.
What's up, y'all? Can y'all hear me?
What up?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Good. Yo, so first off, appreciate y'all for doing this, man. It's like my second time catching you guys live. Love it a lot. But my question is, why don't we use the eye test more when we have like these debates? The reason I ask that is because when you look at Kobe Bryant has had like legendary seasons and a true showman of his talent that was head and shoulders above anyone else. Like if you specifically look at, I believe like his 05 or 06 and 07 season. Now just for clarification, I have Michael Jordan as my GOAT. Kobe Bryant's my favorite player ever, but I do have Jordan as my GOAT. But every time I think about those seasons, right, when he had like Smush Parker and Chris Mim and that terrible roster, Kobe Bryant to me was the best player that I've ever seen in my life. So like I just don't really understand how like people can fix their lips to say that Duncan's better, like just considering that alone. Now I get accolades and stuff like that play a part, but I just wonder why we don't use the eye test more when we have these debates.
All right.
I'll have something for that
let
too.
me-
I'll have something for that too.
I do,
Okay.
but I will.
Yeah, let me answer this real fast. So you talk about the eye test. In respect to how flashy Kobe was, yeah, Kobe was extremely flashy, but they played two different positions, and what Duncan was doing was absolutely phenomenal. You look at his low post play. I think or just post play in general, I think mostly everyone would agree in total that Tim Duncan was a vastly better post player than Kobe Bryant. You could talk about the defensive side, just because he's not a guard where the ball is moving as much. It's flashier to look at it that way. If you're using the eye test, if you know what you're looking for and you know the positions, you'd have an idea that Tim Duncan is arguably better or just as good as Kobe Bryant as a basketball player, period.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I have something on that. I think because it's more nuanced. Like, I'll put it this way. I've said in my videos that Kobe Bryant was the most impressive player I've ever witnessed with my two eyes. Part of that is because he was the most ridiculous shot maker I've ever seen. Like, he would make shots he's falling off balance, two guys all over him. Like, he made me say wow more than any player I've ever seen before. But there's nuance there. Like, was all of Kobe's shots smart shots, or was he just always taking them because he believed he can make them? Is he making his teammates better by taking so many shots, or is he taking the Lakers out of the triangle offense? It's like when you start unpacking it, there's a lot more to it. I do agree from the perspective that Kobe made me say, wow, more than any player. I've seen so much of Michael Jordan too. It's more for the perimeter ridiculous shots that Kobe made and his ball handling that make you just go, wow, this dude might be the most skilled player I've ever seen. I'd put it that way.
Yeah.
Just
real
real
quick,
fast. Real fast. This 20 seconds. The danger in the eye test is that it's in the eye of the beholder, so to speak, and not everybody. Like I personally, I haven't seen. I was born in the mid '80s. Like I can't go back and say I watched Bill Russell and Will Chamberlain. Like you have to find a way to put things in context from times that you weren't able to actually experience them.
Mm-hmm.
I'm wanting to be real brief. So when I look at the two, of course, Tim Duncan's the greatest power forward of all time, no question. Michael Jordan's the greatest shooting guard of all time, no question. Now, I don't believe that Tim Duncan's second, whoever you guys say the second greatest power forward is, right? I don't think he's on par with Kobe. That's where I have the distinction right there. That's why I feel like it can be a legitimate discussion, because where Kobe is ranked amongst his position, well, the player that's second to Tim Duncan, he's not on Kobe's level. And I know one guy brought this up about efficiency and all of this. Okay. Where Tim Duncan is shooting the ball, Kobe's not shooting the ball the majority of the time. Yes, they both play in the post, but Duncan is going to operate out of there more often than not than Kobe. That's why I don't like doing the whole PER and efficiency when you're taking a front court player and a back court player, because it's going to be a chemical imbalance. Now, yes, again, I said this earlier, Tim Duncan is the model of consistency. He's the model of being textbook and fundamental. Kobe Bryant has the wow factor, the spectacular factor. Tim Duncan, I would say, is a better decision maker. Kobe Bryant is just more relentless. I think both of their style of plays did what? It led to 5 championships. Granted, it was in different paths, but they're ultimately winners. But if I just had to choose the guy I want to build my team around, I'm going to take Kobe. With all due respect to Tim Duncan, I'm just going to take Bean. That's just me.
I think there's a generational component to this too. You talk about the eye test. I'm mid 80s as well, and I think we often talk about using the eye test because we saw, greatness. And these days, fans look at numbers, they look at analytics, and they do that to justify their argument, which I think is fine. That's their preference. But these days, the eye test isn't used as a credible argument because there's such a generational gap. So it's like the younger fans can't understand that once you've seen something in person, you can maybe understand why it might be greater, as opposed to just looking at a series of statistics.
Yeah, I want to just add to that because I've been wanting to say something real quick.
Johnny, can you let Robin say something? He hasn't said something.
Go ahead, bro.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to say, something that, as pertains like the eye test and how the eye test affects certain people. I want to give you an example of what I'm talking about. Bill Russell is regarded as the greatest defensive player of all time by many people. And most of the people around these ages, we haven't seen him play. And Bill Russell still to this day hasn't recorded a single block or a single steal. So you can't just necessarily look at the numbers and say, oh, well, Bill Russell wasn't a great defensive player because he didn't have certain numbers. Why is he recognized that way? Because of what people watched him do. This is the legend that you build off of what people watch you do. When you talk about some of these great all-time great players, man, it's the eye test that makes them iconic. You become iconic based off of what people watched you do. So, yeah, I didn't see Will Chamberlain play basketball or Bob Pettit or, any of these guys that played back in the day. But we recognize these players for what they do on the basketball court based off of what? The stories that are told through the publishers, the writers, the broadcasters, based off of what they were watching these guys do on the basketball court. The numbers are irrelevant. These guys didn't even have numbers, but they're recognized for what they did, man. What Will Chamberlain and Bill Russell, these guys would do. So that's how you think about the eye test.
All right. Johnny, if you got one more thing, and then I've been really bad with this. Then the next caller, point your question if you have a question to one person, because we got people coming in.
The numbers, I think.
Can I say one more thing before we dip out?
Johnny wants to say one more thing, and then you can, and then you'll have a minute to reply. Yeah.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
I will say this. The young kids nowadays, they look at the numbers, but they don't always know how to look at the numbers, like the context of it. Like one of the weakest arguments I can hear, and I'm not trying to hate on Tim Duncan, but you can't ignore this context. If you're going to bring up efficiency and you're going to talk about Tim Duncan as a power forward / center, shot the ball more efficiently than a shooting guard perimeter player, Kobe Bryant, that's ridiculous. That is so shallow. Perimeter shooting players naturally shoot a lower percentage, especially as you take more shots, because as you take more shots, the quality of your shots go down. And everybody holds Kobe up to the standard of Michael Jordan, scoring 30 points per game throughout your entire career and averaging 50% is not the norm. That's insane. That's Michael Jordan. Mm-hmm. But Kobe still, throughout his career, typically shot a field goal percentage that was higher than league average. And when you're shooting 20, 25 shots a game, that's really incredible.
Great point.
All right, Layla, you got a minute to respond. We're going to move on to the next guy.
No, I agree. Yeah, I just want to leave you guys with this. To your point, I do agree that perimeter players have a level of difficulty over the bigger players. Sometimes you're just born with size, and it makes it easy to hit a turnaround hook or a layup or whatever the case may be. That's why they do shoot at a higher percentage. Another thing is too, I hear a lot of Tim Duncan was a better defender. The reason why I talk to eye test a lot is just because I believe being a defender is something that you can't really go to the stats for because there's no stat for locking someone up and making them miss a shot. And Kobe and Jordan were known for standing in front of a perimeter player, Speedy Gonzalez, and making it tough as nails on them to shoot effectively on numerous occasions. And unfortunately, there's not a stat for that. That's why I hate the whole defensive talk or whatever. That's why I like the eye test. But I appreciate y'all, man. I watch all of y'all, and Scap, keep doing your thing, man. I'll be in your comments, man. Y'all stay blessed.
Appreciate you.
Yo, thanks
All
for
right.
calling in.
Thanks, Lalo.
Thank you, sir.
All right, we've got Top Dog on. Top Dog, you got a minute to ask a question, 2 minutes to make a comment, and if you're asking a question, say who you want to ask or answer. Excuse me.
Well, I just wanted to make a comment, on the whole Kobe and Duncan comparison. And I was gonna say it's like, let's say like 2011 to 2014, right? When Kobe was still playing at an elite level, and then Duncan, he was starting to build his team. The Spurs are starting to build back up. Getting like y'all said, getting rid of Richard Jefferson, and then getting Kawhi, guys like Kawhi. And I was wanting to say, had David Stern not vetoed that Chris Paul trade, and Chris Paul went to the Lakers, and they still got Dwight Howard, and they managed to get Phil Jackson back, what do y'all think the NBA would have looked like? Do you think the Lakers could have went to the finals and possibly beat LeBron in the Heat? I think there's a possibility with Kobe still playing at an elite level. Then you add on Chris Paul and Dwight Howard with Phil Jackson as head coach. I think there's a good possibility that the Lakers, they could have won again, and Kobe maybe 8 rings. He could have passed Jordan. Then you get Kobe and LeBron. You know how that probably would have been one of the most watched finals of all time. Kobe versus LeBron. Like LeBron in his peak and Kobe still kind of in his peak. I wanted to get y'all thoughts on that.
Who?
Okay, that's a question, not a comment. But who do you want to answer that? One person. We got to move it through. I've been bad today.
Sorry about that. I'm gonna go with Johnny, since he the big Lakers fan.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
All right, Johnny, please keep it to a minute.
Yeah, for sure. I've made a video about this, called it The True End of the Black Mamba, and it's about that 2013 season. Hiring Mike Brown was dumb, and then 5 games into the regular season, they fired him and decided to go with Mike D'Antoni instead of Phil Jackson. One of the dumbest decisions in Lakers history, because they wanted to pair him with a 39-year-old point guard with back problems. It was stupid. And so they should have gone with Phil Jackson because he would have fit that team. He already had success, coaching a 2 big man lineup with Andrew Bynum and Pau Gasol. I don't think Kobe gets 8. Well, I think you got to give that Miami team with Eric Spoelstra and those 3 stars a little bit more credit. I think maybe Kobe gets a 6. I think Kobe gets a 6 with Chris Paul. I think they would have made it work. As much as Chris Paul gets crapped on, I think he's a real great competitor, and him running the point with guys like Pau Gasol and Dwight Howard, that would have been nuts. So again, it's the what if game. I hate to not see it, but that's a part of history I wish I could change and should have been changed.
Hang on, just 20 seconds, just 10 seconds for me. Kobe also doesn't blow his Achilles out, dragging that team into the playoffs then. So think about how many more points Kobe scores. Think about all of his statistical enhancements to what he did. I just wanted to add that in.
All right, Top Dog, you got a minute to respond, and we'll go to the next guy.
Yeah, I think there's a possibility that Kobe could at least win 6 at max 7, because a team of Kobe, Chris Paul at point guard, Kobe at shooting guard. Do you have Dwight at center? Well, Dwight at either way, you could do Dwight at power forward, Paul Gasol at center, Phil Jackson as the head coach. That is a deadly team right there, especially with Chris Paul entering his prime and Kobe still playing at a elite level. That's deadly.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for calling, Top Dog. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
And we're going to move on to the next caller. We've got YT Hoops, Jana Kennels, Dan, and whatever other alias there is. How are you today?
What's going on, guys? Happy Sunday.
What's up?
Happy Sunday, man. Good to see you.
Sunday.
Do you have a question or a comment? And if it's a question, who do you want to ask?
I have a comment, but it's going to be directed at Scap.
No answer.
So, all right, I got a minute, right? All right.
Two minutes for a comment if it's not a question. Yeah.
Okay, I probably won't need that much. So, I mean, on the Duncan Kobe thing, I actually like the debate. It's weird. I mean, I might favor Duncan. I think if I'm starting a team, I'm taking Duncan. I think he just generally provides more value. Now, that could be a large part of that may be because I just think there's a lot more value in big men than shooting guards. He's also a better rebounder, a better defender. But the point that I want to get off, the reason I like that debate is because I think both of them are kind of in that same class, that like 10 to 15, 8 to 12 class. And this is where I got to go with Scap a little bit. Dude, you have Kobe way too high. And like, he's not anywhere near LeBron. He was 100% Robin to Shaq. That team won over 60 games while Kobe was riding the Pine Pony. Then you go during those finals, like without Shaq. So without Kobe, they win 60 games. Without Shaq, that team probably doesn't make the playoffs. I don't think you could say to me with a straight face that team is anywhere near the finals, let alone the playoffs, without Shaq. Then you look at 2004. What happens when Kobe tries to be the guy? And I'm not trying to hate on the guy. I'm just saying, what happens when he tries to be the guy? The one season that he takes more shots than Shaq, they lose. And the other thing is, like, there's just this rewriting of history. It's like, when Kobe does it, it's like, oh, see, that's like Mamba mentality. Like he just needed to be the guy, right? Or like in the playoffs where he like refused to shoot. Like I've seen people be like, oh yeah, see, that was just Kobe like doing his thing to get better players. Last 15 seconds, he tried to add Chris Paul. So he was trying to build a super team, but like, oh, it's all right when he does it because again, it's a guy we like. So it's just inconsistency, and I think you way overrate Kobe. I do like your channel. I'm not trying to hate on you, even though I just went pretty hard. That's all.
All right. Thanks, Stan, for calling.
Is this a question to me or?
No, he just came at you. That's all. But thanks, Stan, for calling. Appreciate it. We'll let Matt come in. Robin apparently is having internet issues. Anyway, welcome, Matt. You have a minute to ask a question or 2 minutes to make a comment. And if you're asking a question, who are you asking?
Hi guys, love from India again. These Sundays are turning out to be great. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yep, we can hear you.
Yeah, cool. I just have a comment. It's like I was just thinking like the leadership styles were very different with Kobe and Tim. You know, I think Kobe was closer to Jordan even in leadership skills, and I think Phil Jackson mentioned that like he looked at Mike and had to learn those leadership skills, and he was more vocal than Tim. I think leadership-wise, Tim had the help of Popovich, who was doing most of the talking in the locker room. So I think, yeah, I would say Kobe. I would take Kobe being a leader in the locker room. So maybe Scap can respond. I don't know.
Okay, so it's a question. All right, Scap, you got a minute to respond to what he said.
Yeah, sure. Look, I think to echo, I keep kind of piggybacking. Johnny made some great points today. So Johnny kind of called Kobe out about his perceived lack of leadership abilities early in the show. And I'm not, again, he said in his original comment that probably I wouldn't even disagree, and I don't. Like, Kobe wasn't necessarily a great leader. He really never was, honestly. And Kobe addressed as much in like this rambling Facebook message that he posted at like 2 a.m. one night. That basically leadership to him didn't mean making people feel comfortable or appreciated. It meant forcing them to, awake their inner beast. It meant forcing them, challenging them to become all that they could be. And Kobe didn't need to win popularity contests. So he did it a completely different way than Tim Duncan. And basically it was more of do as I do. Like, look at me, like take my leadership that what I'm doing on the court as an example of how you should kind of get up to my level. He challenged them. He went at them in practice. So, I think it was just two different methodologies, but at the end of the day, they kind of got to the same point, and they were both great all-time champions.
All right, Matt, you got a minute to respond.
Yeah, I mean, I'm the guy who prefers Kobe's leadership over, making everybody comfortable because, I think even Jordan made that happen. Like, he never made anybody feel comfortable, but he pushed them hard and got the results, right? So I would prefer Kobe's style. And regarding the eye test, the previous guy is so off. I mean, I don't know what he was talking about. The eye test for me, even if I'm in India, I think, and I'm younger than most of you guys, I would still pick the eye test over the numbers because if you played basketball like I played in school, high school, and college, and I just had to learn from watching Jordan and Kobe and picking up the fundamentals. So yeah,
You
I
are
would
correct,
still
sir.
pick Kobe, man. Kobe is, yeah.
I mean, Duncan was called the big fundamental, but besides that, anyway, thank you for calling, Matt.
Thank you, and shout out to India. Thank you for calling from India and listening.
Yeah,
Thank
that's
you.
awesome, man.
Yeah. All right,
Yeah,
thank you, Matt.
enjoy these debates all night, man. Yeah, cool. Great catching up.
Absolutely. YT Hoops sent a $5 super chat, and thank you very much, sir. Or Janet Kennels, aka Dan, aka everything else. He says, "Good stream, guys. Thanks, YT Hoops. Appreciate you very much, sir." We got Jack the Reaper. You got a minute to ask a question or 2 minutes to make a comment, and please direct your question to an individual if you have one. Hello.
Yeah, I don't really have a question to ask, but I just want to say that YT Hoops or Pork Chop earlier really said with a straight face that Kobe is a Robin to Shaq, which he is not. He clearly is the other alpha of the team, and the Lakers chose Kobe over Shaq. And never in any conversation here in the Philippines, I think anywhere in the U.S. that they compare Kobe and Duncan will be over Kobe in any conversation. I just think that is dumb. Any type of reasoning to put Duncan over Kobe is just a dumb take. It's just anyone who hates Kobe will even take Bruce Bowen over Kobe because they just hate Kobe so much. And he said that Porchop said that Kobe is not anywhere near LeBron. He's crazy. And I just want to say, Johnny, I think you are on the you're on the payroll of Clutch Sports. That's it. That's all I want to say.
If I was, I wouldn't have said, "Hey guys, this doesn't matter. Michael Jordan's still the GOAT, and it's not all that close." But yeah, I said that. If you still think I'm on Clutch Sports, then I think you just hate me being honest. But yeah, MJ, go watch those games. They're in a link in the pinned comment of the video. Watch the full 35 minutes if you want to see the conclusion, and you'll see. I say without a shadow of doubt, MJ was the best defensive player that year. If I was on Clutch Sports payroll, I wouldn't say that. So,
thanks, Jack the Reaper. Although you tried to, even though you smoked everyone on the panel, anyway, or at least me and Johnny. Anyway, thank you for calling. Bye bye. We got Conk here. I've dropped the link if anyone else wants to call in as well. But we got Conk here. If you have a minute to ask a question, 2 minutes to make a comment. If you're asking a question, please say who you're asking.
Okay, hello. Can y'all hear me?
Yep.
Yes.
All right. So it's so much that I could say, but I'm gonna keep it quick because I know you guys got a show. But this comment / question is directed at both Scap and Johnny. So
gotta pick one.
You guys always bring up how Kobe in 2001 he was carrying the Western Conference, but doesn't that actually kind of kill your argument? Because if we're talking Kobe versus Tim Duncan, and Tim Duncan is responsible for holding Shaq, what series can you find, like when they were teammates, where Kobe did something like that to his opposition? Because he didn't do that to Reggie Miller in 2000. He didn't do anything to AI in 2001. I mean, what are we talking about? Where is the series where he cooked the superstar? So if Tim Duncan could do that to Shaq, where's Kobe? It seems like he just exploited a weaker matchup.
Is
You
that
can take
a
it, Scap.
question or?
Who do you want to? Okay, Scap can answer real fast. Matt Parker, thank you for the super chat. All right, Scap, what do you got to say? I got a minute to respond.
Yeah, I mean, look, Kobe in against Reggie Miller, like, look, he had a severely sprained ankle. People always look to the Kobe Bryant stats in that 2000 finals against the Pacers. Kobe absolutely demolished the NBA that year in the clutch. Like Kobe led the entire NBA as a 21-year-old in clutch scoring. Shaq that year in those playoffs, real quick, in the 2000 playoffs against the Pacers, Shaq scored 2 points in clutch situations. The final 5 minutes in 5-point games. Kobe led the NBA with 21 points in those situations, and he led the Lakers to an 8-1 record in those such games when they were in those tight settings, including in the NBA Finals against the Pacers that year. But just to your overall point, look, in 30 matchups head-to-head in the postseason, Kobe played Tim Duncan. Duncan, he played great. 24 points, 12 rebounds, 4 assists. Kobe averaged 28.5 points, 6 rebounds, and 5 assists in those 30 games, and had an 18-12 head-to-head record. Look, I'm not hating on Tim Duncan. He's very close in my overall metrics and rankings with Kobe Bryant. But if you're forcing me to pick, it's honestly not a difficult choice for me. It's going to be Kobe Bryant. And he was the best player in those Spurs series, ultimately. Like, you could say Duncan and Shaq were offsetting each other, but the Spurs had great perimeter players as well, including Bruce Bowen, who was an elite perimeter defender at that time that Kobe was scorching routinely.
And nobody said Shaq was carried. Shaq was never carried. There's a difference between who was the better player in that specific series and one guy was carried. Nobody said Shaq was carried. Shaq was not carried in his prime.
Can y'all still hear me?
Yeah, Conk, you got a minute to respond. I muted you so he could get his.
I got one more point to make. All right. So, again, in 2004, when Kobe was the man with Shaq, he shot them out of the series. They played the Pistons, who were a good team, but they only won that one championship. They had no superstars. However, 2 years later, when Shaq was not even in his prime, D. Wade carried them to a championship in an East that you could argue was better than the West that season, 2006. They had to play the same Pistons team, and D. Wade was apparently the man carrying Shaq. So
they lost to the Pistons the year before. They lost to the Pistons the year before, though.
Mm-hmm.
The year Shaq left to go to Miami, they played the Pistons and lost.
But D. Wade was only in his second season. So a third year D. Wade was able to carry Shaq, but Kobe with a still prime Shaq couldn't even beat the Pistons.
I want you to do some homework and go look and see what the other players were doing in that 2003 finals, again, when it was the Lakers and the Pistons. Go check and see. I believe this is totally top of my head. I think Derek Fisher might have been the third leading scorer in that 2003 finals. I think he averaged like 7 points per game on like 32% shooting throughout the course of that series. I'm not saying the Lakers should have lost that series, but there were some things that were happening. Karl Malone got hurt in the course of that series.
All right, let's okay.
They don't want to hear that.
All right, we're gonna move on to the next caller, but thank you for calling, Conk.
Shaq in 2003, they would have destroyed the Pistons. That's all I'm saying.
All right, thank you for calling, Conk. Appreciate it.
Wildly disrespectful to that Pistons team, arguably the greatest defensive team in NBA history. That was what I took away from that. That team deserves more respect than that.
And they did take the Spurs 7, by the way. Like they took the Spurs and Duncan to the 7th game in the NBA Finals. That
04 Pistons team was solid. Like, nah, I give them all the mad respect.
Holding everybody below 7, like, come on, man, come on.
All right, we got Jim with Self Research NBA Facts here. How are you, sir? If you do you have a question or comment?
I think I'm just going to be a comment. I can't believe nobody brought it up, but that last guy, I don't know what he was talking about. In 2005, Shaq finished second for MVP. Not really sure what he's talking about. Dwayne Wade averaged 24.1 points a game, 5.2 rebounds, and 6.8 assists in '05. So I don't know about that. About Wade was young or whatever. He was top 5 players in the league probably at that point. But an important point that I always use when I rank players, I didn't hear anybody mention, was Tim Duncan was upset 7 times with home court advantage. He also lost 6 series in which he led in. Kobe lost only 2 with home court and only 1 series ever in which he led at any point in the series. Just thought those were important ones to bring up.
Good arguments.
Interesting.
Good arguments.
Yeah,
I, of course, meant the
That's all I got. I didn't know if anybody was aware
Such
of it
facts.
or...
He dropped such facts. We got nothing for him. We're like, yeah, that's
Interesting
a good
fact.
point.
I just want to.
Yeah, was that a
I meant
comment or
the
a
04
question?
finals for the Lakers, not 03, obviously. Sorry, I misspoke.
Those
are
all
great
I got.
numbers, though. Self-reported NBA facts. Thank you very much for adding that.
Yeah, I just did a whole ranking system and I put so much time into it. I got a brand new channel. And anyway, that was one of the criterias I used, was not getting upset. And Duncan, like Larry Bird, both got upset 7 times with home court advantage. And that's something I never heard people bring up, which is it should be a factor when anybody's thinking about it. You know, maybe a big one, maybe a little one, but it is a factor. But
I consider it a little one. Because Duncan's my guy. Anyway, no, thanks, Jim, and thanks for sharing that with everybody. For the people that didn't know, because you put your work in for all of that. So I appreciate you putting in the effort to find these more nuanced things that a lot of people don't talk about. And everyone check out Self-Research NBA Facts as well if you liked what he had to say.
All right, you guys have a good one.
All right, thanks, Jim. We're gonna have Platanos on, and he's and then after that we'll shut this thing down. Platanos, welcome back, sir.
Thank you. Let me reply to that guy. The home court advantage is not even that serious because in 1984, Larry Bird had the home court advantage, but nobody would say that he had a better team than the Lakers. So using the home court advantage thing, it matters when you're a 1 seed and you lose maybe to an 8 seed. Okay, yeah, but if we're talking about you lost to a top 3 seed and you're a top 3 seed, like how is that important?
Wait, don't role players play better at home though?
Hoopgod, let him finish, please.
No, I like that. No, I agree they do play better at home, but what does that have to do with having a more talented team with less wins? For example, 1984. Are you saying that the Lakers had a worse team than the Celtics because they won less games?
I think they were on par in '84. Like, I think you can make an argument for either one.
That's a lie. I think that's a lie because when you let me explain to you, because when you look back at the articles, everybody has the Lakers beating the Celtics, and when the Celtics won in 1984, it was an upset. You can't be an upset.
So that's critics' opinions. Because again, if we go roster for roster, I'm not saying that Robert Parrish is on Kareem's level. No, I'm not. However, Kevin McHale and James Worthy, that's very comparable. Larry Bird won the MVP. Magic Johnson might have finished top 3. Then if we go to Dennis Johnson, Dennis Johnson, Danny Ainge against Byron Scott, Michael Cooper. Like, no, I'm not going to definitively say that the Lakers was this overwhelming favorite. I mean, Boston was
they were. They were, and let me explain it to you. They had 2 MVP candidates. Did the Celtics have 2 MVP candidates? No. So then when you
MVP, no. But again, Kevin McHale at that time production was higher than Kareem's though.
But his production being higher than Kareem's doesn't mean he was a better player. That just means his production was more at the time. That doesn't mean he was a better player.
You can make the argument Kevin McHale was more effective on defense than Kareem.
Okay, but like I said, are you saying that Kareem was a worse player than Kevin McHale at that point?
I'm going to let you guys go until 3 minutes, and I'm going to cut this off for Mr. Canuck, and then we'll shut this down.
Kevin McHale was a better defender than Kareem. Kareem was still effective on offense. So I'm not going to say that there was a definitive gap, but I do give Bird credit for taking down that team, though. Yes, I'll give him all his credit.
But it was a clear upset because when you look at the roster, the Lakers had about 6 Hall of Famers, and the Celtics had like 4 or 5. But when you look at the Hall of Famers and you look at the level of Hall of Famer and at the level of their career that they're at, it's clear that the Lakers had more talent. I'm not saying it's like, I don't know, like a super team versus a not super team because they're both super team, but it's a clear advantage. I think they had like three or four number one overall picks on the Lakers versus the Celtics, who had none. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not saying it's like, oh, this lopsided David versus Goliath, but it's a clear upset.
Yeah, I can see
All
that
right.
outside.
All right, thank you for calling back, Platonos. And
All right.
we're gonna have Mr. Canuck on. We're gonna shut this thing down after that. Welcome, Mr. Canuck. That's I think the more appropriate way to say it. But anyway, you have a minute to ask a question or 2 minutes to make a comment.
Yeah, just wanted to ask you guys a quick question. Did you guys have you guys paid attention to any of the Olympic basketball at all?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'm just curious. I don't know if you were up to date with what happened. I watched the game between Serbia and USA, and I have this really it really irks me. Like, I don't know what it is, but every time I hear the play-by-play, they just seem to push this LeBron thing so strong when KD had like a phenomenal game. There's so many guys on that team that deserve to play right now that need to get pushed, but it just seems weird. Like, even in the Olympics, I don't know what it is. I don't know why they push it like this, but they just seem to want to keep pushing LeBron's face on everything when there's so much talent out there that over surpass him, and there's just a new generation that's coming that needs to kind of light up and kind of do its thing. You know what I mean? I don't know if I'm like kind of sounding weird, but I hope it makes sense in some weird way. I just kind of want to put my 2 cents out there and just be like, yo, if you guys are paying attention to that, I'd really love to hear you guys' like 2 cents on what you guys think about it, Olympic basketball, and is it better than NBA basketball? Anyways, that's kind of it.
All right, Spe Engine, since it wasn't directed at anybody, do you want to answer? Because you haven't really said that much lately.
No, yeah, well, seeing how everyone else is getting cut off, I don't want to make a thing of it. No, everyone knows exactly why. This is his swan song. This is his last chance at getting an accolade. I'm kind of shocked Bronny's not on the Olympic team, if I'm being honest. This is it for him. If they win, it'll be because of him. If they lose, it'll be probably because of Kevin Durant or Steph Curry. And it's all very intentional. I'm kind of shocked it's hit the international stage, if I'm being honest, because I thought it was just kind of like this American arrogance thing where everything's given to you instead of being earned. But I guess it's reached FIBA, which is kind of scary. It actually makes me kind of pessimistic for the future of basketball overall, especially with some of the calls. Just the whole team is getting the blatant travels, the blatant offensive fouls, and it's no longer just LeBron; it's the entire team. It's like a virus. So it's to keep him relevant. If they get the gold, it'll be because of him. That's why.
All right. Well, Mr. Canuck left, but thank you for calling, Mr. Canuck. And for the purpose of what you were saying, Spe Engine, I did not cut him off. He just left.
He knew you were going to, so he just left.
Yeah, preemptively just left. Anyway, yeah, I thought it was a great show. And does anyone have any last words? Hoop God, do you have anything to say to the people? You're on mute.
I keep seeing this joke in the comments talking about somebody's mad. No, nobody's mad. No, we are just tired of the unnecessary agenda and the propaganda. Again, you have all these young up and coming players, but yet we still have to hear about a guy who has a losing record in the finals and has missed the playoffs 4 times in his amazing season to let them tell it. So no, nobody's mad. You can't be mad at mediocrity. Like, that's asinine. Okay. And y'all know my quote. It's imperative that we destroy these narratives.
Johnny, you got anything to say to the people?
Yeah, thank you all for being here. I think technically this is only my 3rd live stream on my channel, so still kind of getting comfortable with that and everything. But this is all great. These guys have been great, so check out their channels. Love talking old school hoops with you guys. And as far as that, the whole LeBron thing and everything, I think it's been that way for a lot of guys. I mean, even MJ. I think everybody who even thinks MJ's the GOAT. Of course, David Stern had an agenda to make him look even better. And so it's marketing. follow the money. LeBron's got like $1 billion Nike contract, which makes a lot of their shoes in China, which is trying to appeal to audiences in China, and Clutch Sports now has a hand in all kinds of players and agencies and all that. Just follow the money. So sometimes you just got to hear stuff like that where certain guys are being elevated, even Kobe and Duncan to a certain extent. I could say that as a Kobe fan. There got to a certain point where Duncan was the boring guy. That's what they were saying in the 2000s. He was the boring guy. So, and the ratings were bad whenever they got to the finals. So, of course, they didn't want to elevate him as much. And in the years since, people are giving Duncan more respect. So just follow the money. You'll figure it out.
Absolutely. Jay, Scab Attack, you have anything you want to say?
Yeah, I just want to, again, to echo Johnny, this is my third time on my channel live streaming as well. So it still is a little bit new to me as well. I appreciate Dart you for extending the invitation to me initially and like kind of following up and getting me on here with you guys. Thanks everybody for watching. And just one final blast on my way out on the Kobe Duncan thing to put it to rest for me. Look, Kobe Bryant, Will Chamberlain in the 1960s, and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar in the 70s. Those are the only three guys ever in NBA history to lead a decade in scoring average and points scored. So Kobe Bryant did that in the 2000s while being first team All-NBA 9 times out of 10 and winning 5 championships. So like that resume, I'm sorry, like I think very highly of Tim Duncan. I think he might be in my revised top 5 all-time list, but he just cannot be above a guy that was that complete and that elite on both ends of the floor that parlayed it into that kind of a team success. So all due respect to Tim Duncan and Dart to you, because I know your affinity for Tim Duncan, but again, Kobe all day.
All right. Spe Engine, you have anything to say?
I just want to piggyback off Hoop God real quick. Like everyone's always like, why do you guys keep talking about this, and this? I might not be the stats guy on this show, but I will be the common sense guy on this show. Why are you asking questions you already know the answer to? We're being flooded every day now internationally by mediocrity, and the people with the loudest voices also seem to be the dumbest ones. So, no disrespect. So we're here just trying to offer another way to look at it. And the fact that the other side gets so defensive tells you everything you need to know. Because any anti-Jordan talk you hear on this show, all you're going to get from me is, oh, all right, cool. That's cool. It's not emotional. It's basketball. It's just basketball, like God says.
Well, I want to thank you all for coming, the panel and the people on the show. Again, it's always great to have other YouTubers come on. And I think this show is just great in general. We obviously are making waves, having Gilbert Arenas come on and other big time guys, to include Johnny, actually coming onto the show. So it's I think the show is going great. Tim Duncan is better than Kobe Bryant. And I'm glad all the callers came up helping me with some of the points as well, because
you have the deck stacked against you.
it definitely was. It was everyone versus me, but it's okay. No, but I think it's a great debate to be had. I think it's really a close one. I think it's, again, that I mentioned before, I think it's a better debate than, me personally, the MJ LeBron one or some other ones as well. But again, thank you all for coming. And I apologize for anybody that sent super chats on other people's channels. Something happened where it's not combining all the channels anymore on the restream, so I wasn't able to see it. So any of that happened, I truly apologize. It was a technical difficulty. And yeah, I hope you all have a wonderful weekend. And Michael Jordan fans are the best.